American comic, I'm lost, I'm surrounded by superheroes with father issues. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 801 I had a dream. I dreamed of Shenmue Batman. Sorry, the press conference is over. Please stop asking questions, Gordon, who is in a state of panic, said helplessly to the reporters. But the reporters quickly crowded in like sharks smelling blood. How long will the curfew in Gotham City last? Commissioner Gordon, please answer this question. It is said that 15 police officers resigned today. Is that true? A blonde beauty came up to him excitedly and asked, Commissioner Gordon, should you resign? Is the police coerced by the gang? Have you lost Gotham City, Mr. Commissioner? Gordon, who was bombarded with questions from reporters and was somewhat unable to cope, finally squeezed out under the protection of his men. After letting his men block the eager reporters, Gordon walked out quickly. Soon he walked to an empty street. Officer Gordon, a voice suddenly came from behind him. Startled, he turned around and saw a figure slowly walking towards him. Azu, wearing a black suit and a hood on his head, slowly walked out of the shadows. Who are you? Gordon asked in confusion as he looked at Azu, who was gradually revealing his figure. I am John Padrick, son of Peter Padrick. Azu walked towards him step by step. You can call me Homelander. If you don't mind, we can find a place to have a good chat. Officer Gordon, Azu showed a self-proclaimed friendly smile on his face. The situation is unclear now. Raven, Loki, Star-Lord, Horus and others are hiding in the dark. His best partner is Officer Gordon in front of him. Although he is not very familiar with Officer Gordon in his own world, he has never liked the people in Gotham. Especially Bruce. Why should I trust you? Officer Gordon took a step back cautiously. Because I can help you catch the new Batman, and I can help you catch the prisoners who escaped from Arkham, Azu said confidently. As long as I take action, all the evil in the city will end. As he spoke, he continued to approach Officer Gordon. Gordon frowned and asked him, do you know Batman? Of course, we have known each other since childhood. Do you know how I used to think of him? I have always believed that his so-called no-killing principle is nothing more than a moral fig leaf sown by a coward for himself, Zhu said bluntly. The fact is, he did not make this city better. Seeing Zhu directly attacking Batman, Gordon was stunned for a moment, then shook his head and said, no, he is trying to make this city better, but his purpose is by no means to be a vigilante, a hero, willing to die for his ideals. Even if his body dies, he must pass on the immortality of his ideals. What he hopes for is not to pass on violence, but a kind of order and ideals. Okay, Mr. Padrick, since you said you can help catch those criminals, then I agree to this cooperation agreement, but the premise is that you must prove it to me. Of course, Zhu nodded, looking at the city bathed in the night in the distance. A hint of red light flashed in his eyes. This city should have a new owner, Zhu whispered in a voice that Gordon could not hear. At the same time, Tim Drake was chasing the robbers with a huntress, Helena Bertinelli. Helena, the huntress, was originally born into a mafia family in Gotham. As the boss and her father, she abused her mother on a daily basis, and her mother cheated on her husband and gave birth to Helena. Once during dinner, a group of killers attacked their family, and no one was spared except Helena. After that, Helena lived in the house of her uncle, who was also a mafia member. In order to get rid of the nightmare of her family's death, she picked up the crossbow hanging on the wall. Helena's initial actions in Gotham actually made Batman very dissatisfied. Her methods were too cruel, which was not in line with Batman's philosophy, and it was on Batman's territory. Not only that, Helena also used the title of Batgirl. Now the two of them, at Nightwing's request, formed a group to deal with the robbers. Tim Drake squatted on the railing of the bridge, tactical goggles filtered through the rain curtain, and several thermal imaging red dots were fleeing between the containers at the dock. The modified batsuit absorbed the sound of raindrops hitting the ground. He could hear the slight friction of his joints in the night wind. The silver crossbow of the huntress glowed dimly as she looked at the fleeing robbers. Which road did they take? The huntress, wearing a red felt hat and a yellow and red uniform, asked him. Did you see it? No, the thermal imaging is gone. Tim's thumb brushed across his belt and suddenly remembered what Batman said in the Batcave training ground. Turning back, he said to the huntress, someone once taught me that when you face ordinary criminals, you have to take into account their hysterical factors of shock, The huntress was stunned. Hysteria. Yes, the wrong judgment of the next step. People who panic will inevitably make mistakes. That's right. Soon the huntress saw several gangsters entering a dead end. Tim immediately chased after them. The moment he fired a grappling gun, the microelectromagnetic pulsar had scattered along the parabola on the roof of the container. When the first gangster's night vision goggles burst into sparks, Tim dived down from a 45-degree angle. Bang! A dull explosion sounded, and the moment Tim's right knee hit the opponent's chest accurately, his left hand had already slid along the barrel of the assault rifle to the back of the trigger. He heard the click sound of the opponent's arm joint being dislocated. A scarlet warning flashed across his goggles, and the next second, Tim twisted his waist and flipped in the air, kicking the missed gangster hard against a rusty container. The huntress's fighting was more direct and brutal. When she blocked the robber's dagger with her sheen, the sparks from the titanium alloy leg guard illuminated the night. The moment the huntress spun back and kicked the enemy's mandible, she turned around and punched the enemy away. The shoulder pads of her tweed jacket were deliberately transformed into the shape of bat wings, and the hand-sewn gold thread glowed faintly between the moldy walls. With a bang, when she raised her leg and kicked the robber's knee, the arc of the Scottish plaid skirt was lifted up, just revealing the batarang on the thigh strap. On the other side, when Tim's brass knuckles hit the switchblade, he suddenly saw the other party throwing a gas canister at him. He immediately recognized that this was the new fear gas developed by Scarecrow. Tim leaned back quickly, and the electromagnetic adsorption device popped out of the modified belt, locking the gas canister that was about to be broken in midair. After seeing this scene, the female hunter immediately threw out 3 batarangs quickly, which exploded the gas canister. Bang! After killing the last gangster, Tim said to the huntress, "You're quite neat. I also learned something from Batman. If he really taught me anything, it's to be prepared for anything, even facing death." The huntress put away her weapon and said to Tim, "Let's go. The guy we deliberately let go is probably rushing to their lair in a panic." The two deliberately let one guy go and planned to chase him to the other's base. While walking, Tim asked Helena, "Do you still have nightmares?" Helena has been having nightmares recently. Although the cause of the incident originated from her childhood. When she was 8 years old, a gunman suddenly appeared at the table where her family was having dinner and snatched her cross as a memorial. Except for Helena, who survived, everyone else died. At this time, Helena suddenly had an idea, that her god could not protect her. From then on, Helena came to Sicily, where she lived with her uncle and her cousin. But her uncle and her cousin have been using weapons to play the gangster game, which reminds her of the previous nightmare, which continues to haunt her. Even though she has passed the nightmare years, the nightmare has recently haunted her again after Batman disappeared. She always dreams of a figure similar to Batman, appearing in a vague and untouchable shadow. Although the other party is wearing Batman's uniform, she can clearly feel that the other party is definitely not Batman. And the temperament exuded by the other party makes her very scared. Powerful and seems to have a hint of warmth. It's like looking at a sacred tree emitting soft light. Sacred tree, what does that represent? Helena thought with some confusion. Seeing the other party's worried look, Helena took a deep breath and said to Tim, "I dreamed of a Batman, but he was not the Batman we know." Tim shrugged and said, "I dream too. I always dream of Batman. I dreamed that I asked him, can't I be happy if I become Batman?" Helena became interested and asked, "What did he answer in his dream?" He said, Tim said in a rough voice, "I am Batman." Helena was stunned for a moment, and a smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. "Indeed, that sounds like something he would say," Helena said with mixed feelings. "We can't even accept a life without Batman. He is not only a dark knight, but in the eyes of ordinary people, he is the Bat-God entrenched in Gotham City, but in order to become a perfect existence like Batman, he almost gave up everything he had. Since the death of his parents, there is almost only one thing left in his life. Batman's oath is above everything in his life, whether it is pain or love, or family affection. In his eyes, Batman should be perfect, so he can't be happy." Putting on goggles, she said to Tim, who was in a daze, "Let's go. That guy has run far away. We can't let him run away." At the same time, boom, in the speeding night, 2 motorcycles sped through the city. Chapter 802, Explosive Ambition. 2 Harley motorcycles were speeding through the city of Gotham. The driver of the motorcycle in the front was Mark, and Bombshell, who was sitting in the back seat, was holding onto his clothes tightly. The other motorcycle was driven by Way alone. The cold wind in Gotham blew across his face like broken glass, and Mark could feel Bombshell's knuckles, holding onto him tightly through his clothes. The turbo engine of the modified motorcycle roared with a flat tire. Since the relationship between the three has always been good, even now that they have entered the battle for the farm, the three did not separate. Instead, they cooperated with each other and formed a team called Sacred Tree. The three used the World Tree on the Farm as the name of the temporary organization. After some discussion, the three decided to observe the situation in Gotham City before making a decision. Now Gotham City is not only occupied by various supervillain forces, but also other brothers and sisters in the dark, and they may capsize if they are not careful. I hope Dad won't be anxious when he sees us disappear. When I return to the farm, I will definitely give the cape to Dad. This way, although he will be unhappy, he will feel much better. Bao, who was sitting in the back seat, muttered in a low voice, regardless of whether Mark heard her words or not. She became nervous about the future direction and possible ending. If it really doesn't work, she still has the last trump card. Bao pursed her lips and gritted her teeth and said to herself in her heart. The winter night in Gotham froze the river into a blue-gray blood vessel. Mark and Way's motorcycle rolled over the glass slag accumulated under the ice, and the anti-skid tires drew a forward track on the frosty asphalt road. Bao wore a knitted round hat and windproof and rainproof goggles on his eyes. He looked heroic. Bao raised his head and looked at the surrounding streets on the motorcycle. At this moment, in a nearby alley, three homeless people were holding bottles of wine, seemingly fighting for something. Behind the bulletproof glass of the convenience store, the clerk was putting a temporarily closed sign on the glass door. The neon tubes cast mottled blue on Bao's goggles. She saw the reflection of herself in the window, hugging Mark from behind, splashing rain. The cordon of the Gotham Police Department fluttered into a tattered yellow ribbon in the cold wind, and the bullet holes in the cordon area were still emitting wisps of green smoke. Passing through the entrance of the Gotham Police Department where the crowd had dispersed, several people drove to the vicinity of Gotham University. The three people's motorcycles were passing through the gate of Gotham University. On the bulletin board outside the school, there was a riot notice from 3 days ago, and the students' protest slogans were covered with newly sprayed gang signs. Well, it's a mess here. It seems that this city really needs Batman. Bao couldn't help but complain in the backseat. Wait, soon Wei saw the chaotic scene on the street and immediately stepped on the brakes. From Wei's perspective, in the alley with dim street lights and rain, several leather jacket thugs were surrounding the broken iron car of the newsboy. The leader was hitting the frame with a baseball bat. Little bastard, it's time to pay this month's money. The bald man with a cheap bat logo tattoo pressed the cigarette butt on the back of the hand of one of the boy newspaper boys. Seeing that a child was being bullied, Wei immediately stepped on the brakes. With a squeak, the motorcycle stopped on the road, making a harsh sound. The motorcycle driven by Mark also stopped quickly. The friction sound of the motorcycle's sudden brake scared away the crows in the garbage dump. Mark stopped the car and narrowed his eyes at the gangsters who bullied the three newspaper boys. He took off his gloves very slowly, so slowly that he could see the chrome-plated revolver on the gangster's back. His supervision also saw that the patched cotton shoes of the newspaper boy were melting the snow, and the melted water seeped into the headlines of the newspapers scattered on the ground. Wayne Group ends funding for orphanages. Hey, I think you better not do it casually, otherwise I don't mind giving you a good beating. Wei, wearing boxing gloves, walked towards the few people aggressively, and said with a warning in his tone. Seeing the three people coming over, the bald man's expression was a little stunned, but he reacted quickly. You guys, who haven't even grown all their hair yet, do you think you can get involved? The bald man said, swinging the baseball bat at the motorcycle headlight. Bang! The next second, Mark's left hand had already grabbed his ulnar nerve groove. Mark had practiced this move many times. Peter always told him, when the opponent is armed, he should let the pain run from his fingertips to his tear glands. Ah! The gangster's howl startled the stray dog at the alley, and the frightened dog ran away with the food in its mouth. Bao's action was also very fast, and her heel accurately kicked the knee of the second gangster. With a bang, the man she kicked fell to his knees and knocked over the iron car, and the overturned newspaper floated in the mud. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of the third gangster taking out a switchblade. Bang! Bao swung her elbow back and knocked the opponent out with one elbow. When he knocked the black gangster with his switchblade away, Bao caught a glimpse of three pairs of eyes huddled behind the rusty iron car, 2 boys and a girl, the oldest of whom was no more than 8 years old. Shadow. It's Shadow who's hitting people, the black boy with dreadlocks suddenly pointed at Wei, who was doing it on the other side. Wei was pressing the gangster's head into the garbage dump, and her figure flickered under the street light, like a black shadow. Bang! Bang! After knocking down the last 2 thugs, Wei clapped her hands, walked up to the 3 frightened children, and said to them, "I'm not a shadow, but I saw Batman's shadow before." The black boy with dreadlocks plucked up the courage to stand up and said to her, "You looked a lot like Batman just now." Wei looked at him in surprise and asked him, "Have you seen Batman?" "Yes, I've seen him at the dock. He is a shadow creature who can blend into the darkness, teleport, and even split into multiple shadows. I've seen him fighting enemies at the dock. He suddenly appeared from the shadows of the wall and knocked down the enemies with the power of the shadow." "No. No way," a girl immediately retorted, "he's a flying object. I saw him fly up and fight the gangsters. He swept through the sky like a giant bat, and could even release sonic attacks. Batman's cloak is like a living thing. It can stir up storms or wrap up enemies and devour them," the girl with freckles on her face said confidently. No, Batman is not a shadow, nor a flying bat. He is a technological warrior," the last white boy, who was a little thin, said excitedly. "He is wearing heavy armor, equipped with missiles and lasers. Batman fights enemies with high-tech equipment and jumps over tall buildings with rockets." Listening to the 3 children arguing fiercely about what Batman is, Boom and V looked at each other. It seems that the Gotham urban legend of Batman is really popular among children. "No, you are all wrong." Boom took off his goggles and bowed his head to the few people and said, "He is just an ordinary person." "Ordinary person? Not at all." The freckled little girl shook her head to express her disbelief. "He is just an ordinary person. My father also said that he is an ordinary person. Although he is an ordinary person, I believe that ordinary people can also achieve something," Mark said to the children. Wow! As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly noticed a bat figure flying over the alley in the sky. Seeing this scene, Mark immediately realized that the other party might be the fake Batman who appeared recently. Bao, Wei, we have to go." Mark immediately sat on the motorcycle, and Bao also reacted quickly and jumped on the back seat of the motorcycle. Watching the motorcycle speeding past, the 3 children stood there, stunned. Was it Batman who flew over just now? Maybe. "I told you, he was a shadow creature." "No, he was a flying creature." The children quarreled again. On the other side. 10 minutes later, Bao and the other 2 followed Batman's figure and came to an abandoned hospital. Bao wore goggles and walked in front alone, walking forward along the rotten stairs. "I miss my dad a little bit." Bao suddenly stopped and said to Wei and Mark, "Don't worry, we will see Dad. He knows we are missing and will definitely come to find us." Wei comforted her sister, who was a little upset. "Actually, I still hope that Dad can come later." Boom suddenly changed his words and said, "Because I want to get the cape and give it to Dad. I want to prove that I have learned everything that Dad taught me very hard." Boom stopped and said to the 2 in the silent corridor, "Batman taught Robin the fighting skills, weapon use and detective ability system Daddy mastered. Dad also taught me about family and guardianship through demonstration. Dad told me that I have talent, and this talent is used to protect my family. Dad helped me find a balance between the dual identities of ordinary people and superpowers. My mother gave me life, but Dad taught me how to live, so I want to prove that I can give everything I have to Dad, so I hope to get the cape and give it to Dad to prove that I have finally inherited all his spirit." Boom said the most real thoughts in his heart to Mark and Wei. Boom. After listening to Boom's words, Mark was stunned for a moment, and then asked her carefully, "Does the family you mentioned include Azu and others?" "Of course, but now we are enemies, so there is no need to protect them," Boom said, pinching his waist. Bang! Just as she finished speaking, a gunshot suddenly rang out from inside. The 3 people who heard the sound immediately rushed to the inside of the hospital. A few minutes later, Tim and the huntress rushed to the scene and saw several robbers tied up in the room and completely dead. The robbers who were tied together had completely lost their breath and fell to the ground. It seems that the Dark Knight has made another move." Helena looked at the scene and said to Tim, who was lost in thought, "Don't move." Suddenly, a voice came from the shadows. Chapter 803. I live in Zon. No one understands darkness better than me. Bomb came out of the shadows with a gun in his hand and said to Tim and Helena, who were stunned, "Don't move, put down your weapons." At the same time, Mark and Wei also appeared from the shadows. Seeing the girl wearing goggles in front of them, holding a strange gun in her hand, although they couldn't figure out whether the other party's gun was real or fake, they didn't dare to gamble. Helena threw the crossbow in her hand to the ground. "Did you kill them?" Tim raised his hand and asked Bomb with a serious expression. "No, of course not, they were already dead when we arrived," Mark shook his head and said. He took out a piece of paper and said to the two people who were stunned, "We found this here, it says I am Batman." "Oh, that's the fake Dark Knight," Tim said to Bomb and the other two. "Are you the new villains in this city?" "No, of course I'm not. In fact, we are very familiar with Batman. In a way, we are a family." Mark looked at Bomb with a stern face and said, "Bomb, put down the gun." Although she was a little reluctant, considering that Mark was here now, bullets could not hurt him, and the safety of the two was guaranteed, she put down the bolt gun in her hand and happily. Seeing Bomb put down the gun, Tim and Helena looked at each other. "Who are you?" "I am Mark Patrick. They are Bomb and Wei, my sisters. We entered this city for some special reasons. Don't worry, we don't mean to hurt you." After Mark explained to the few people, he walked to Tim and Helena and stretched out his hand to them. After hesitating for a while, Tim finally shook hands with Mark. "Our goal is also to see our father, so we have similar situations." Mark imitated Peter and pretended to be mature. Tim listened to Mark's words with a complicated expression on his face. What does the other party mean? He knows his relationship with Batman. Tim immediately fell into wild thoughts. "Is your father also Batman?" Helena asked curiously on the side. "No, he is Batman's father." Wei's words stunned Helena and Tim. Tim looked at Wei and others suspiciously, wondering if they were here to fool him. "The crisis here lasted longer than we thought." After the group left the abandoned hospital, Tim said to them. He now has a preliminary trust in Mark and others. After all, Mark told them where the Batcave is and some secret places in Wayne Manor. This made Tim have to believe that the other party might really know Batman. He sighed and said to Bombshell and the others, "Nightwing and Batgirl have formed the Godnet organization, a team composed of our most trusted allies to help clean up the mess. Gotham City has fallen into a vicious cycle. The gangs found that Batman was missing, and they realized that now is a good time to redivide the underground sphere of influence in Gotham City." Tim paused and continued, "Everyone has participated in this crime carnival. Guys like Penguin and Two-Face are attacking each other, and those younger and more ambitious gangs are also beginning to emerge." Wei frowned and asked, "What about the police?" "As for the police, they are already overwhelmed. The Gotham City police force is on the verge of collapse. While enduring long, dangerous and thankless patrols, the police have to worry about whether their families have been attacked. Many people find that they have no choice but to resign." Looking at the city in the distance, Tim continued to say to the others, "There are riots and looting everywhere. The mayor has declared Gotham City to be in a state of emergency. The people of Gotham City are looking forward to the appearance of a savior, a person who can restore the streets. They are looking forward to the appearance of Batman, or someone similar to Batman." After listening to Tim's story, Boom fell into silence. After a while, she raised her head and said to Tim and Helena, "Then let me be the Batman. My father once taught me responsibility and courage. I will become Batman and fight against the evil of this city. After all, I grew up in Zone. No one knows darkness better than me." "Your father?" Helena looked at her with a dull look. "Yes, Peter Patrick, the king of the world. The master of the sacred tree," Boom suddenly said loudly in a middle school way. Peter, who was being talked about by Boom, suddenly sneezed. He didn't know that Boom was bragging that he grew up in Zone. He took Harry and Hermione, as well as Lyra and Kara, to enter the Hogwarts World School. In the dormitory, Harry met Ron, whom he hadn't seen for a long time. In the month they were apart, Ron seemed to have grown a few inches taller, making him look thinner and clumsier than before. However, Ron's long nose, red hair, and freckles were still the same as before. The two hugged each other, and Ron let go of Harry. Harry was happy and wanted to say something, but before he could open his mouth, he heard a slight whirring sound from outside, and a white object flew over from the top of the black wardrobe and landed lightly on Harry's shoulder. "Hedwig," Harry stroked the feathers of the snow-white owl. The owl's beak made a clicking sound and pecked Harry's ear gently and lovingly. "Your owl has been restless," Ron said to him. "It almost pecked us half to death when it brought us your last two letters. Look at this." As he said that, he raised the index finger of his right hand to show Harry that there was a wound that was almost healed, but obviously very deep. "Sorry, Ron," Harry apologized to the other party. "I'm really sorry, but I want to get a reply. You know I've been at my aunt's house in Privet Drive. I was trapped in Privet Drive for 4 weeks, picking up newspapers from the trash can, just to find out what was going on. After that, I lived in Mr. Peters' house. We also want to reply to your letter, buddy." "Wait," Ron showed a shocked expression on his face. "You live in Mr. Pedrake's house?" "With Raven and the others." "Yes, you should have informed me. I also want to go to the farm. I'm tired of the life here, especially that woman Umbridge." Ron immediately expressed his envy. "Can you help me ask, can I live on the farm?" Ron asked Harry. "I'll ask for you," Harry said with some lack of confidence. He didn't have the confidence to convince Mr. Peter to let Ron go back to the farm. "Thank you. Actually, I have always wanted to learn from Mr. Pedrake," Ron immediately said to him excitedly. "I am also his fan. By the way, Harry, don't you always receive the Daily Prophet?" Then Ron asked a little uneasily. "Yes, I always receive it," Harry said to him. "Have you not read it carefully?" Ron continued to ask, his tone more uneasy. "Not from beginning to end." Harry looked at him sensitively. "If they are going to report on Voldemort's affairs, it must be the front page news, isn't it?" Hearing the name, Ron shrank his neck in fear. He coughed quickly to stop Harry from continuing, and said to him hurriedly, "Harry, you need to read it from beginning to end to find out that they mention you once or twice a week, but I didn't see it." "You won't see it if you only read the first edition." Ron shook his head. "I'm not talking about a big article. They just mentioned you in passing and treated you as a joke." Harry immediately widened his eyes excitedly. "What did you say?" "Indeed, I know, it's very hateful." Ron scratched his head and forced his voice to remain calm. "Their basis is Rita's nonsense, but she doesn't write for them anymore, right?" "Oh, she probably doesn't, but I think she kept her promise. She had no other choice," Ron explained to him. "But she laid the foundation for what they are going to do now." "What are they going to do?" Harry asked impatiently. "Well, you know she said in the article that you were causing trouble everywhere, and complaining about your scar hurting or something." "What?" "Now when they mention you in the article, it seems that you are such a fool who tries every means to attract attention, thinking that you are a tragic hero or something. They keep pretending to make a few malicious comments about you casually. When they encounter a report that has no basis, they will say something like only Harry Potter can make this up. If someone has a ridiculous accident or something, they will say I hope he doesn't get a scar on his forehead, otherwise he will ask us to worship him next." Harry listened to Ron's words and instantly became angry. Peter in the common room frowned when he saw the comments about Harry in the Daily Prophet. Lyra suddenly appeared from nowhere and stuffed a soft candy into Peter's mouth. "Master, try this." "What is this?" "Slug-shaped candy, with pear flavor, sour cherry flavor, and of course it may also taste like snot." Lyra showed a mischievous smile on her face. Peter tasted the winning slug in his mouth, and his face turned bitter in an instant. "You really love your grandfather." While Lyra didn't notice this, Peter quickly spit it out and asked her, "Where's Kara?" "She went to play Quidditch with Hermione. She is very interested in this sport." Lyra said that Kara might have been hurt by her cousin in the world of injustice, and now she has begun to devote herself to sports. At night, after finishing the discussion with Malfoy about brain occlusion, Peter led everyone back to the farm. Looking at Harry with a dejected face, Peter said to him, "Harry, don't be affected by those reports. They just want you to be at a loss. Don't follow their ideas. No matter what happens, I am behind you." Listening to Peter's comfort, Harry's mood improved a lot. He thanked Peter gratefully. "Thank you, sir. You have always been my role model. I will not let you down." Hermione next to him, watching Harry rekindle his fighting spirit, smiled at Peter. Mr. Peter can always see through their minds and is considerate. It's great to know Mr. Peter. It would be nice if Mr. Peter's children were gone and only Harry and I were left. No, I can't think like that. I'm not an evil dark wizard." Hermione immediately reflected on herself. Half an hour later. Farm. Peter looked at the quiet farm with a puzzled look. Where did everyone go? Raven, Azu, Gwen, and Boom. Chapter 804 Loki. From now on, please call me Black Mask. Persephone. After calling several people without receiving any response, Peter frowned and called the housekeeper Persephone's name. But to his surprise, Persephone didn't seem to be at the farm either. Peter looked around the farm and then entered the living room. The coffee in the living room had gone cold, and people had not been at the farm for a long time. The TV was still on, broadcasting the latest news, and newspapers were flipped messily on the side. It seemed that Raven and the others had all disappeared in an instant. What happened, Peter? Kara came up and asked Peter worriedly. Did they encounter an attack? No, I don't think so. Peter shook his head and said to her, there are no signs of fighting in the room, and the TV is still on, which means that everything happened suddenly in an instant. Most importantly, I don't think anything can defeat them all in an instant. Peter frowned, paused, and said, and in some ways, my soul and theirs can sense each other, and I don't feel that they are in trouble now. While listening to Peter's words, Leela carefully searched the room for valuable clues. Soon she found a note on the TV cabinet. Master, I found it. Leela picked up the paper and asked Peter to come over. Peter, Hermione, and Harry came over and saw the message on the note. Hi, I'm Gwen. Don't worry, Peter. Your son and daughter, Raven and Loki, have all been invited by me to participate in a competition. We are holding an event similar to Marvel Hero Beach Volleyball, and the final winner will have generous rewards. We will be back soon and will definitely not delay your harvest. The last message was your eternal CP, Gwen. A heart was drawn behind the message. Peter looked at the note left by Gwen and fell into silence. This gender-changed Deadpool actually took all his sons and daughters away. Even if the other party said not to worry, it was a recreational activity like beach volleyball. But who can guarantee that Gwen will not do anything? After reading Gwen's message, Leela felt a little uneasy. She said to Peter, we have to find them back as soon as possible, sir. I think Gwen may have some bad ideas. Kara folded her hands in front of her chest, turned around anxiously twice, and then said, no, we can't travel through dimensions at will. Gwen can not only travel through different dimensions, but also flash back and modify reality at will. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack for us to find them. Listening to Kara's words, Peter nodded and said, yes, unless we can also find the person who can travel through different dimensions at will. Who? Kara immediately looked at him. Siri. At the same time. The world of the battle for the cloak. Late at night, early in the morning. A police car escorting Arkham prisoners was being transferred from Arkham Asylum to the outside. Because of the riot caused by Arkham Asylum, the guards of the asylum had to transfer all the personnel to another containment structure for safety. The guard sitting in the co-pilot, Tom Williams, looked at the road ahead nervously. The night covered by darkness continued to extend outward in the night. The recent series of crimes in Gotham have made him, a prison guard, overwhelmed. He even wants to quit his job and go home to start a new career plan. After all, his life is the most important. On the bridge not far from the escort police car, Loki, standing in the middle of the bridge, showed a wicked smile on his face. In the pattering drizzle, Loki put on a black mask, and then his whole temperament changed. Boss, behind him, a subordinate walked towards him quickly and stood behind him to talk to him. Under the cover of the night and rain, the subordinate did not see his boss's appearance just now. Boss, Black Mask, the escort police car will be here soon. Very good, tell others to get ready. Loki, who was pretending to be a Black Mask, said to his subordinate in a hoarse voice. Yes, a few minutes later. Squeak, the police car slammed on the brakes. Tom Williams, who was escorting the police car, looked at the vehicle parked on the bridge in front of him in shock. Several Ford cars were parked in a mess near the Gotham Bridge, blocking the road ahead. It was obvious that someone was coming towards the escorting police car with bad intentions. Shit, he just cursed when he saw countless strong men wearing black masks rushing up around the police car. The strong man holding a gun smashed the car's glass with a crash, pointed the gun at the driver, and shouted loudly, "Raise your hands. Quick. Open the door." The frightened driver immediately pressed the door opening button and raised his hands. Although he had a police rifle in his belt, Tom Williams knew that he could not be a match for these people. Besides, he did not have the courage to risk his life and fight with these gangsters. After all, property belongs to the country, but life is your own. Tom Williams raised his hands and watched many strong men surround a man wearing a black skull mask. He quickly recognized that the other party was the famous Black Mask Roman Sinus. It is said that this guy controls half of the underworld in Gotham. Moreover, the opponent was vicious and cruel. He once dug out his parents' coffins from the cemetery and used the ebony on them to carve a black skull mask representing anger. After carving the mask with his parents' coffins and transforming into Black Mask, the opponent formed his own underworld gang and became one of the most feared gangsters in Gotham City. At this time, Loki, disguised as Black Mask, was very lifelike. No one could see anything unusual in front of outsiders or his loyal men. Looking at the cold light on the mask on his face, the Black Mask walked step by step, and the prisoners in Arkham had different expressions. Black Mask? Impossible. Shouldn't you be dead? If that's true, Crane, you can't be free now, Black Mask said to the questioning prisoner in a hoarse voice, but don't get it wrong, freedom has a price, you have to spend some time and make some achievements to repay me. Poison Ivy looked at the pretentious Black Mask, stood up unhappily, and said to him, under your leadership? You should know that I never accept orders from others, really? Poison Ivy, don't be so confident, you should look at what you look like now. He walked in front of Poison Ivy, his eyes shot out a look that Poison Ivy felt unfamiliar. But now this situation should be over. Hearing Loki say this, some prisoners couldn't stand it, and the unruly people suddenly pounced on Black Mask. Hey, you bastard, didn't you hear what the lady said just now? We won't accept orders from anyone. As he spoke, he slammed his handcuffed hands towards Loki's, or Black Mask's neck. Before the attack came, Black Mask raised his hands to grab his neck and slammed him to the ground. With a bang. The prisoner who was smashed to the ground let out a painful groan after landing on his back. This attack almost broke his spine. Watch his fate, friends. As Black Mask spoke, the prisoner who fell to the ground immediately covered his face and screamed. Obviously, there was nothing on the prisoner's face, but the other party covered his face and wailed in pain, as if his face was burned by something. Soon the guy who fell to the ground gradually became motionless and became dying. Using an illusion to make the unlucky guy think his face is being burned, Loki calmly asked the prisoners, now, do you have any opinions? Black Mask looked around with a rather oppressive gaze. You better give us a fucking explanation, Killer Croc said viciously to Loki pretending to be Black Mask, otherwise it won't be so easy for us to listen to you. Explanation. Black Mask showed a playful smile at the corner of his mouth. Batman is dead, guys. This is my explanation. I want you to obey my orders. We control the underworld of Gotham, especially the Batman. No matter who wants to pretend to be Batman, I want you to find him out. Poison Ivy frowned slightly and asked him, do you want to be the king of Gotham? No, I'm not interested in being the king of Gotham. I want to be the king of Smallville. What? Poison Ivy, who didn't understand what he meant, looked at him incomprehensibly. It's just a joke. Okay, let's go. Black Mask shook his head and motioned everyone in Arkham to follow him. After Loki, disguised as Black Mask, rescued the prisoners in Arkham, he was a few blocks away from the Gotham Bridge. At this time, Catwoman was standing in the original crime alley. Catwoman, wearing a black uniform, set off her perfect figure. With a sad expression on her face, she looked at the place where Batman's parents were killed. Catwoman bent down sadly and placed a white rose on the ground. She understood Batman and knew that a part of Batman's heart would always stay with the boy who faced the bodies of his parents in the dark rainy alley. He longed for revenge, but not just revenge on the murderer who killed his parents. Batman has been trying to make this city better. But now, Gotham City is like a dam full of holes. Every time she fills a hole, 3 new ones will emerge. In her opinion, it is only a matter of time before the dam breaks. Dick knows this, Gotham City knows this, and his enemies know this. Just as Catwoman was lost in thought, she suddenly heard some noise around her. Chapter 805, Shocking News. A superhero named Peter Patrick appears in Gotham. Catwoman was surprised and raised her head quickly, only to find a black shadow flying over her head. Who is that? Batman. The appearance of the black shadow instantly attracted Catwoman's curiosity. Catwoman, who had been tracking the violent Batman who appeared in the city recently, immediately took action. Thinking that the other party was the fake Batman who suddenly appeared recently, Catwoman shot out a hook gun, pulled her body into the air, and quickly climbed up the wall to track the other party's position. The black shadow that Catwoman noticed was wearing a mask with gold and white as the main colors. The shape of the mask was quite similar to the mysterious mask sold in the grocery store in the underground alley in the Zone world. Its surface was covered with irregular cracks and lines, showing a sense of damage and vicissitudes. Catwoman secretly followed behind and soon saw the appearance of the black shadow wearing the mask with the help of the light. The other party had a well-proportioned figure, but looked quite explosive and had extraordinary momentum. The most important thing was that the other party's mask gave people a very mysterious and obscure feeling. The man wearing a mysterious mask blocked the robbers who seemed to have just finished robbing the jewelry and were about to flee. The next second, a dull bang sounded. The masked man's knee strike had hit one of the robbers' diaphragms like lightning, knocking him out heavily. Seeing their companions being beaten, the other robbers also rushed over quickly. The first knife-wielding man swung at an angle that was too greedy. If his right shoulder sank 2 inches, the blade could hit the masked man. But the masked man's left hand was faster, and he grabbed the opponent's dagger and twisted it off. The moment he landed, his right elbow had already smashed the opponent's jaw muscle. When the gangster collapsed like a snake with its spine pulled out, the masked man's elbow hit the second man's chest with a bang, smashing him heavily against the wall of a nearby street. The third man took the opportunity to swing the chain, and the padlock at the end of the chain drew lightning in the rain. The masked man suddenly squatted down, and the chain brushed past his pointed ears. The stretched padlock became a weapon instead. The masked man grabbed the middle of the chain and pulled it hard, and the gangster's thumb joint dislocated with a click under the pressure. When the fourth man rushed from behind, the masked man took the opportunity to wrap the chain around the third man's neck, turned around and threw the human shield at the attacker. Bang! The dull sound of the two people colliding scared away the crows perched on the nearby trash can. The fifth man held a switchblade and huddled behind the trash can. But he forgot that the wet ground would refract light and shadow. When the black cloak was lifted, the sewage puddle reflected his trembling ankles. Then the masked man jumped against the wall, stepped on his collarbone with the sole of his boot, and used the force to turn over and step on his wrist as he was about to draw his gun. The gangster screamed and was instantly knocked out by a fist. The last robber seemed to know some fighting skills. He stepped back to avoid the masked man's sweeping leg and jabbed directly at the eye socket of the mysterious man's mask. But the mysterious person blocked his attack and put his right palm on the opponent's elbow and exerted force suddenly, and the young man's whole arm suddenly felt numb. Bang! The next second, he was grabbed by the mysterious person's arm and fell to the ground with a dull sound, splashing rain. Catwoman, who had been hiding in the dark and observing this scene, was shocked to see the mysterious masked man easily solve the group of robbers. She didn't know there were such guys in Gotham City. And seeing the mysterious masked man's extremely relaxed look, the other party should not have used his full strength. Who is he? You have been watching for so long, don't you come out to meet me? Just as Catwoman was in shock, she saw the mysterious masked man suddenly turn around and face her direction and said. Catwoman judged from the other party's voice that the other party should be young, at least not older than herself. Who are you? Catwoman knew that the other party had seen her hiding place, so she stopped hiding and stood up to ask him, why haven't I seen you in Gotham City? Is this strange? You are not the god of Gotham, and it is impossible for you to know everything about Gotham, the mysterious masked man said to Catwoman. Even Batman is not the god of Gotham. Do you know Batman? No, my father knows him. Everything I know about him started from my father. Catwoman looked at him in confusion. Who is your father? I am. The mysterious masked man paused and said to her, I am Peter Padrick. Peter Padrick. Catwoman was slightly stunned when she heard the name. Although it was the first time she heard this name, why did she feel a little inexplicably familiar? Yes, I am Peter Padrick. The young man who called himself Peter Padrick turned around and said to Catwoman, you were in Crime Alley just now. That's where Batman's parents were killed, right? Catwoman nodded. I understand. I also know how much self-blame an 8-year-old child would feel at night after going through all this. Perhaps he has been thinking, if he hadn't found the play boring, if he hadn't been unwell, if he hadn't been scared by the story, if he had been braver, if he had already had high-tech weapons at that time, Peter Padrick said to her slowly, for this 8-year-old child, as long as one of the above ifs could happen, his parents would not die, and he would not have to become Batman, let alone always restrain himself like a god in self-blame. I understand this emotion, and I understand his original intention of becoming Batman. Although he may be like Sisyphus, pushing the boulder of justice, and perhaps all this is in vain for him, every inch the boulder moves will reduce the losses of Gotham and its people. Peter Padrick had a complicated look on his face. I admire his spirit, although I don't think his behavior is the best solution, but now that he is dead, this city needs a new spiritual totem. Catwoman was slightly stunned, looking at him with a suspicious look. You said, you are this new totem. No, I may not be qualified, but my most revered, respected and beloved father can be. Therefore, I will bring his spirit and name to Gotham, so that they can worship this new totem and spiritual power. What? Catwoman was stunned when she heard Peter Patrick's speech. You can't talk about your father for a few sentences. Could it be that you're a father control guy? Just as Catwoman was thinking about it, Peter Patrick waved his cloak casually. And then his figure flashed and disappeared in front of Catwoman in an instant. In the pattering drizzle, Catwoman looked up and saw a card falling from the air with the rain. Catwoman grabbed the card. There was a line of words written on it. I am Peter Patrick. Below this line of words, there was a painting of a lush white birch tree. Peter Patrick, not only Catwoman. Overnight, all the criminals in Gotham, big and small, who were dealt with by Peter Patrick, received such a card. Not only criminals, but even ordinary people know that there is a superhero named Peter Patrick who suddenly appeared in Gotham to fight criminals. The next day, in a base somewhere in Gotham, Bomb, V and Mark, who were hanging out with Tim and Helena, soon learned that a superhero named Peter Patrick had appeared. Bomb and the other two, who saw this scene on TV, all showed shocked and angry expressions on their faces. Especially Bomb. She was furious and said to V and Mark, how dare he? He actually dared to use his father's name, and even openly used his father's name as his own name in Gotham. Is he trying to prove that he can inherit his father's name? Bomb, who felt offended, felt that his blood pressure was a little high. Her face was slightly flushed, and she felt a little bit of red fever. Wei leaned against the wall with her back and her left leg bent against the wall. She said with a serious expression, it must be one of our people who used Dad's name. I just don't know who it is. Azu? Loki? Star-Lord? Or Tom? Nameless, Mark added. Raven is also possible. She also knows Transfiguration. It's possible that she became Dad, Boom said with gritted teeth. In any case, this guy dares to use Dad's name, so we can't let him go. Since this guy has shown up, we should be the first to get rid of him. Hey, what are you talking about? Huntress Helena entered the room and asked them curiously when she saw that they all had serious expressions. We are talking about the new superhero Peter Patrick. Wei came over and handed her a newspaper with a different smile on her lips. Helena, she took the newspaper hesitantly. For some reason, she always felt that Wei was flirting with her. No, it's impossible. She must have been wrong. Wei is so young, probably not even graduated from junior high school. How could she have such thoughts? Helena quickly threw this absurd idea out of her mind. After taking the newspaper, she was stunned when she saw the new guy who called himself Peter Patrick. Then she asked Bomb and the others in shock, wait, didn't you say your father's name is Peter Patrick? Is your father here? Of course not, Bomb immediately retorted. Our dad would not be so boring as to dress up as a superhero and fight criminals on the streets. Someone must be impersonating his name. This guy is quite bad, but he also does good things. Helena asked her, does he know your father? No, not at all. Bomb immediately denied it and changed the subject and asked her, what's the matter with you coming in so quickly, Helena? Chapter 806, Raven transforms into Nightwing and deceives Damian with her realistic acting. Yes, we got the news from the Oracle, Barbara, that a ship will dock at the Gotham port at night, and Two-Face intends to use this ship of munitions to launch a fierce attack on his enemies. Helena told Bombshell and the other two what she had learned. Who is Two-Face's enemy? Mark stood up and asked him. Penguin. He cut off Two-Face's supply line and expanded his power several times. Helena looked at the newspaper in her hand and said to the others, these two underground monarchs control all the criminal gangs in Gotham City and divide the entire city into two. We have to prevent the weapons on this ship from entering Gotham. Helena took a deep breath and said to Mark in a serious tone, they will take specific actions at night, so we have to respond in advance. Bombshell listened to Helena's words and wanted to say that he had something to do and couldn't attend. She also had to arrest the guy who cheated in the name of her father. As a result, Mark, who was full of justice, immediately stood up and said, of course, we have to stop them and prevent them from endangering the safety of the people of Gotham. Burp. Before he finished speaking, Mark accidentally burped. Sorry, Mark quickly apologized to the stunned Helena. I may have drunk more beverages recently. He showed Helena the beverage in his hand. Cadbury's Oasis juice drink, mango-flavored Batman drink. Helena looked at the Batman drink in Mark's hand, which was made into a surprise egg, and fell into a speechless state. Look here, Superman is orange-flavored, Wonder Woman is raspberry, and Flash is strawberry-flavored. Boom showed Helena the interesting things that the few people had just found in this supermarket in this world. They make me feel guilty when I drink them. Boom said while skillfully unscrewing the beverage can with a click. The mouth of Wonder Woman's beverage can was torn open by her in an instant. As long as you like it. Helena was silent for a while, and said to the others, anyway, don't delay the action tonight, of course, at night. Near the port of Gotham. In the cool Batmobile, Damian, whose father died, was proudly introducing the cool features of the Batmobile to the blonde girl sitting in the car. Is this thing made by Batman? Then can it fly? Fly it, please, help me fly it, the blonde girl asked naughty boy Damian to show her the function of the car flying. Of course, but you have to adjust a few settings first. See it clearly? Let me help you see, the half-grown boy Damian said, and started to control the car. Damian in the world of the Cape War is not like Damian in the world of Injustice, who has entered adolescence. Damian in this world is still in his teens. Although he is underage, his mind is quite mature, and he has also picked up beautiful women. Wearing an eye mask and dressing himself up as Robin, Damian proudly boasted to the beautiful woman about the various functions of the Batmobile. Is this really your car? The blonde asked him curiously. Of course, it's mine now. After all, my dad is gone, and I should inherit everything from him, including this car. I don't think so. A voice suddenly came from the car, startling the boasting braggart Damian. Damn. No way. Hearing this familiar voice, Damian immediately let out a desperate shout. He sneaked out and was caught by this woman. The three-dimensional virtual avatar of Oracle, Barbara, appeared on the screen of the Batmobile. Fortunately, you turned off the GPS positioning of the Batmobile. I have been looking for you in the Batmobile all night, Oracle said to Damian. Since you are nearby, let's go to Gotham Port and take a look around. Damian looked at the beauty in the co-pilot seat in a daze. Are you kidding? Now, he was dating a beautiful woman, and now he had to put down his soft and warm fragrance and go out for patrol? Oracle continued to say to him, I found an unregistered cargo ship on the satellite. It is very likely to be Two-Face's ship. I have already informed Tim and Nightwing, but if you are free now, you can go and help take a look. How annoying. The blonde beauty was a little impatient listening to Oracle. She said to Damian with an unhappy face, I want to see this car fly, and quickly fix this radio. Oracle heard the blonde's words, and the channel fell into a brief silence. Then she asked Damian, who is the bride-to-be who is talking? It must be a cross line. That? Oracle, what did you hear? Damian asked cautiously. I also saw her, kid. From now on, I will take over the control of the Batmobile. What? No. As Damian shouted in fear, the engine of the Batmobile roared, and then in the unbelievable eyes of the blonde, it drove forward. And I'd be happy to show your female companion how she can fly. As soon as the Oracle finished speaking, the beautiful woman sitting in the passenger seat was ejected out of the car with a boom. The powerful impact directly launched the beautiful woman, along with a chair, into the sky. The beautiful woman screamed in fear, and flew into the sky in Damian's dull eyes, getting farther and farther away from him and closer to the moon. Crash! What made Damian's tense heart relax was that a parachute popped out from the beautiful woman's seat. The Oracle's voice continued to come, wash the Batmobile well when you come back, and stay away from Nightwing, so that he may forget that you drove the Batmobile to pick up girls. Damian looked indifferent. Anyway, he will lock me up for 2 or 3 days. Don't think that this will work. Before he finished speaking, the car boomed as if it hit something. In his unbelievable eyes, he saw the huge Killer Croc suddenly punch the front of the Batmobile. Bang! The car that was hit hard slid to the side. The tires made a sharp friction sound on the ground. Damian, who was a little dizzy from the collision, immediately grabbed the steering wheel. Damn! I'm attacked, Damian shouted to the Oracle on the radio. I heard it. Give me the exact location of that brat. Nightwing, who was driving the Batplane, or the Nightwing transformed by Raven, said to the Oracle on the radio. Raven, who had read Nightwing's thoughts, easily sneaked into Wayne Manor and gained the trust of Butler Alfred. Now she has completely integrated into the identity of Nightwing. Nightwing, Oracle didn't expect Nightwing to hear the conversation between the two. It's me. Give me the location of that brat. Oracle, I'll be there right away. It's fine. Covering his bleeding forehead, Damian staggered to his feet. He was in a swamp at the moment. The Batmobile flipped to the side and was already damaged beyond recognition. In his blurred vision, Damian saw 2 people standing in front of him. Killer Croc and Poison Ivy were looking at him from the left and right. I thought it was Batman who was resurrected. But it turned out to be a little ghost. Poison Ivy said with a smile on her face. Swallowing his saliva, Damien said to the two of them, "Listen, guys, we can solve the problem this way. I can let this matter go and let you go. I won't tell anyone that I saw you. How about that? That's fair, right? I didn't provoke you. You can do whatever you want." Before Damien finished speaking, Killer Croc pounced on him and grabbed him with his claws. Just when Damien could almost smell the stench in the other's mouth and was about to be caught, a pair of powerful feet suddenly kicked him. Bang! Killer Croc was hit hard and flew out. After getting rid of Killer Croc with one blow, Nightwing suddenly grabbed Damien, who was stunned, and lifted him into the air by his clothes. Wow! The power paraglider he was riding opened and took him to another direction. By the time Damien realized what was happening, Nightwing had already grabbed him and was gliding in the air. "Are you okay?" Damien was stunned when he heard Nightwing's words. "Are you asking me?" "Of course, I'm fine." Although Nightwing in front of him made him feel a different aura, Damien thought that the other party might have changed because of his father's death, so he didn't take it seriously. What's going on with Dick, you want to know? We can turn back." As soon as Nightwing finished speaking, he immediately felt that he was locked by a dangerous aura. The armor spell had just been put on, and it exploded with a boom and hit Nightwing's back violently. The huge impact of the explosion knocked the two to the ground. Raven, who was disguised as Nightwing, was also slightly dizzy because of the bombardment of the explosion. She originally planned to open her eyes, but thinking that she was now playing Nightwing, she had to close her eyes and pretend to be in a coma. Damien, who was blocked by the explosion, was not seriously injured. However, when he saw Nightwing with his eyes closed, he suddenly felt desperate. No. Wake up, Dick, Damien shouted at Nightwing. "If you don't wake up, we're all doomed." Although he shouted loudly, Nightwing never woke up. The two's gliding flight devices were also destroyed. Finally, with Damien's desperate shouts, the two fell from the sky and crashed into an abandoned building nearby. Boom! Did you hear any sound? Mark, who was lying in ambush at the Gotham dock, lowered his head and asked Boom and way beside him. Helena and Tim were beside them, and they raised their heads when they heard it. "No, I didn't hear it." Helena shook her head in confusion. The voice of Oracle suddenly came from the radio. "Tim, Huntress, something happened." Chapter 807, The Dispute Between Riven and Baobao's eldest daughter. In the abandoned building, Damien endured the pain in his body and lifted up the flying wingsuit that was pressed on Nightwing in the ruins with all his strength. "Wake up, Dick, we are in trouble, and it's a big trouble," Damien shouted to Nightwing, who was pressed down. "Wake up." Nightwing staggered to his feet and wiped the dust off his face, but soon he couldn't hold on and fell backwards. Damien quickly supported him. "I'll help you, we have to leave here quickly." Nightwing breathed slightly and said to Damien, "It's not safe here." "Yes, I know, I'll take you away, can you hold on?" Although he usually behaved unreliably, Damien changed his usual style at the critical moment. Although he was in pain all over, he still tried his best to support himself and not fall down, using all his strength to hold Nightwing. "Don't worry, Dick, I'll take you out," Damien said to him while carrying Nightwing forward. Boom! But before he could finish his words, he was blown away by the shock wave of the bomb that suddenly hit him. The two defenseless people were violently blown away by the strong shock wave. The two rolled on the ground, and the shock wave of the explosion caused waves of severe pain in their bodies. At the same time, the men under the black mask also quickly surrounded them. The strong men wearing black masks and fully armed quickly entered the top of the floor from the bottom. After a simple search, the strong men soon found Damien lying on the ground and Nightwing, Raven, who had lost his fighting ability. After exchanging some information with each other, the strong men immediately came to the location of the two. "Very good, we found the target," a sturdy man holding a gun walked towards Nightwing and said. After Bat's death, Black Mask announced that Gotham City had entered a hunt for the Batman family, including the so-called Robin Bird. "He must be very happy that we have hit the snake in the weak spot." Another of his accomplices, grinning, raised his pistol and pointed it at Nightwing. "Then what are you waiting for?" Just as the two were about to shoot, a bang sounded, and the sound of bullets shot out resounded in the night sky. The two men of Black Mask who did not react were instantly shot in the back. With a splash of blood, the two gang members who were shot groaned in pain and fell heavily to the ground. Dust quickly filled the entire space. The sudden change stunned Damien, who was standing up and trying to make a desperate struggle. He didn't expect that someone would suddenly appear and save him. Who is it? In his astonished eyes, he saw a figure slowly emerging from the dark night. Batman stepped on the ground with both feet and walked towards the two. No. That was not Batman. To be exact, it should be the Batman who had been roaming the streets recently. Batman, holding two guns and wearing a metal mask on his face, exuded a murderous aura. He walked up to the two gang members lying on the ground and said, "Didn't you see the note I left? I am Batman." Bang! As he said this, the bullet was fired with a bang, directly smashing the gang member's skull, and more blood spurted out. After shooting and killing the gang member, Batman walked up to Nightwing and looked down at him. See how convenient it is to use firearms against firearms. Nightwing, Raven, who was pretending to be Nightwing at this time, half knelt on the ground and asked him with some confusion, "Who are you?" This time she was not pretending, she really didn't know the other person. "Who am I? Can't you see it?" The Batman who was using two guns heard his question and snorted coldly, "Or are you stupid to a certain extent?" Nightwing covered his chest and panted slightly and said, You wore a bat costume, but you killed those people, really?" The eyes behind the Batman mask flashed red. "You were almost shot down just now, and the bullet hole in your head may still be smoking." As he said that, his fist suddenly hit Nightwing. "Since you can't see clearly, let me help you see this clearly." Faced with the attack, Nightwing quickly dodged and retreated. Raven was originally a disguise, so she could easily avoid the opponent's attack, but she acted as Nightwing and it was not good to expose herself, so she just used her weapon, a short stick, to resist the opponent's fierce attack. Poor Dick Grayson, you are still following the rules that killed your mentor. With a bang, he hit Nightwing's short stick and knocked him back heavily. Gotham City has always been a city of sin. I once told Batman that this city is like a pipeline built by the devils. Face the reality. Gotham City has become worse since Batman appeared. He has attracted the attention of a large number of murderous challengers who want to rely on him to enhance their reputation in the underworld. Facing the relentless pressure from Batman, Nightwing blocked the opponent's attack and knocked him back with a backhand punch. "You are not Batman." After knocking the opponent back, Nightwing stood up straight, calmed his breathing, and said to him sternly, "Batman has his own way of behavior and code of honor, and Batman never kills people." Batman with two guns looked at Nightwing's serious expression, shook his head and said, "Do you believe in his stuff yourself?" Swoosh. 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 Continuous bat darts flew over, and Nightwing dodged and retreated. "Be reasonable, Dick." Batman's eyes flashed red. "Bruce Wayne is dead, but Batman doesn't have to disappear because of this, and you have accomplished nothing. You watched Gotham fall into dire straits and slide to the edge of collapse, and you actually asked outsiders to help. You bared Batman's glory, and I want to dig him out." Bang! Batman rushed forward and knocked Nightwing, who was letting the water, to the ground with a punch. Seeing Nightwing fall to the ground, Damian wanted to rush up to fight angrily. Stop! As a result, Damian was knocked away by Batman's back fist. Children should not interrupt when adults are talking. While teaching Damian a lesson, Batman did not forget to sarcastically say. While Damian was being knocked away, Raven, disguised as Nightwing, stood up from the ground holding a short stick and stared at him. "You know Bruce very well, and you know my name, so your identity has been narrowed down to, or it is more appropriate to say that it has been determined. You are." Nightwing directly said his name. Jason Todd. Hearing Nightwing calling out his name, Batman, Jason's body trembled slightly. At the same time, he heard footsteps coming from outside. Tim, Huntress, Boom, V, and Mark had already hurried over. Looking at Nightwing, he said with mixed feelings, "Dick, our goals are the same, but the means are different. You beat around the bush and attack from all sides, while I..." Before he finished speaking, he suddenly raised his pistol and pulled the trigger at Damian next to him. And I hit the vital point directly. With a bang, the bullet hit Damian's chest, and blood spurted out instantly. In a somewhat unbelievable look, Damian fell to the ground. Is this bastard a human? How could he suddenly shoot himself while talking to Dick? Damian, who gradually lost consciousness after falling to the ground, couldn't help but complain in his heart. After shooting Damian, Jason looked at Bomb and the others who had gone upstairs and said to them, "You guys just go and save a meaningless life. I'm leaving first." Swoosh! Jason shot a hook gun into the sky and quickly took himself away from the ruined building. Bomb looked at this arrogant guy and wanted to raise his bolt gun to shoot him. Otherwise, this guy doesn't know what level he's as the eldest daughter of Patrick's family. This bastard actually looks down on me. the eldest daughter of Patrick's family. I'm going to chase him. Bomb volunteered to chase this guy. As a result, Nightwing reached out to stop her. Nightwing, also known as Raven, looked at Bomb with an unhappy expression. When did you become Dad's eldest daughter? You dare to usurp power when I'm not here. Very good, now that I am Nightwing, it is not easy to take you down. After dealing with the other brothers and sisters, I will take down you, the girl who talks nonsense. By then, when you know that Nightwing's true identity is your sister, your expression must be very exciting. Raven, who is as treacherous as Bakugo, was gloomy and planning to arrest Bakugo. When she saw everyone's eyes on her, she quickly raised her head, pretended to be serious, and whispered in Nightwing's voice, No need, this guy is still my prey. Let's send Damien to the hospital first. At the same time, in the Nay Island area of Gotham, Star-Lord was outside a cafe, flipping through the latest newspaper under the street light. New superhero, Peter Patrick. Star-Lord looked at the title above with some shock. He didn't expect that his brothers and sisters were so capable. Someone actually pretended to be their father and replaced their father to become a superhero in the city and act as Batman. Could it be that Gwen's statement that the winner gets Batman's cape is not actually a cape? Its deeper meaning is, who can inherit his spirit and become the patron saint of the city? The cape is not a real cape, but a spirit. Star-Lord stroked the newly grown beard on his chin and felt that he had grasped the rules of the game. So who is Peter Patrick? Azu, Loki, Raven, Boom, Tom, or Wu-Ming, Wei? Star-Lord was lost in thought. It seemed that everyone was a suspect. While thinking, he suddenly saw a hot dog stand at the other end of the street. Star-Lord, who was a little hungry and was obsessed with hot dogs, immediately forgot about what was going on and walked quickly towards the hot dog stand. Chapter 808, the mission started off badly. Star-Lord was the first to leave. The world is big, but eating is the most important thing. Since I came to Gotham, I have been so hungry that I look unrecognizable. Star-Lord looked down at his belly, patted it gently, and walked quickly to the hot dog stand. After buying the hot dog, Star-Lord stepped on the ground with his feet, humming the song Come and Get Your Love, and continued to move forward. He was a little self-forgetful with his headphones on, and did not notice that several thugs with baseball bats had surrounded him. When he reacted and looked up, he saw that the malicious opponents had already drawn their weapons. Brothers, I swear you can't get anything good from me. Star-Lord raised his hands and deliberately showed a Walkman on his waist. Why don't I play a Grammy hit and we go home? Stop talking nonsense and hand over the money, the thug leader with green hair said to him impatiently and took out the switchblade in his hand. What if I say no? You may not know who you have provoked, but now I will give you a chance. As long as you put down your weapons and apologize to me, I will forgive you. How about that? Forgive your mother. The enraged thug swung the chain and slammed it towards Star-Lord. There was a whistling sound in the air, and Star-Lord quickly bent down to avoid it. Then he took out the elemental gun from his waist with his left hand and deflected the switchblade that attacked from the right. Clang! Star-Lord's boots rubbed sparks in the sewage pit, and the whole person slid backwards and crashed into the abandoned telephone booth. Great, I was just looking to release some pressure, and now it's party time. Star-Lord quickly pressed the play button of the Walkman. The prelude of Hooked on a Feeling exploded, and the dual elemental gun switched to frost mode. Bang! 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 The blue rays froze the sneakers of the three thugs. Star-Lord turned around and kicked the ice cubes to pieces, and rushed out of the encirclement on the human skateboard. After skating a distance, he kicked the human skateboard under his feet away. With a dull bang, the gangster fell heavily to the ground, splashing a pool of rainwater left after yesterday's rain. On the other side, the yellow-haired gangster had just loaded his pistol, and Star-Lord's elemental gun instantly knocked him out. The moment the weapon flew out of his hand and flew towards the fire hydrant, Star-Lord switched to the flame gun to evaporate the water into a steam curtain wall. When the gangsters coughed in the white mist, Star-Lord quickly pressed the switch of the mask and put on the gas mask he gave from the other world. Hey, the third guy on the left, don't throw garbage around, he shot a pulse bullet while complaining. The electromagnetic wave hit the arm of the gangster, who took off his coat and threw it on the ground. With a painful groan, the unlucky guy fell heavily to the ground. Then Star-Lord jumped up with his right foot on the neon sign, and two bullets accurately shot away the daggers of the remaining two. After using weapons and physical skills without using the energy of the gods to get rid of several gangsters, Star-Lord was in a good mood and put away the elemental gun. I told you that you have provoked someone you shouldn't have provoked. Star-Lord patted his elemental gun and said to the guys who had fainted on the ground, but you are lucky. My father often taught me to be merciful when you can. After saying be merciful when you can in Chinese, Star-Lord immediately said in an apologetic tone, sorry, you probably don't understand Chinese. It means that if you are not very bad, such as those who have committed murders, you don't have to kill them all. So, I will let you go for the time being, just a small punishment. After saying that, Star-Lord whistled and prepared to leave. But soon he heard a heavy sound of footsteps landing behind him. After hearing the sound, Star-Lord turned around with a serious expression. He saw a black figure standing behind him. Batman was bathed in dark light and shadow, and his black robe fluttered in the wind. The other party held 2 guns, and the metal mask on his face glowed with a cold light. Star-Lord immediately recognized that this was the Batman who had recently appeared on the street. This guy holding 2 guns has a simple and rough style, and he will even shoot criminals to death. Some people think he is Batman, while others think he is a thug disguised as Batman. Shooting criminals to death is something Batman has never done. It's you? Star-Lord frowned and looked at him. Are you the new Batman? It's me, Batman made a hoarse voice. You said your father taught you Chinese. From your tone, you seem to respect your father very much. The figure of Batman was half covered in light and shadow, and half in the dim light. Star-Lord looked at this Batman who seemed a little strange, nodded and said, of course, I have taken my father as an example since I was a child. Is there anything strange about this? Yes, it's not strange, Batman nodded. Father, this is a heavy topic, Batman said to him slowly. We are all the same. Everyone has experienced some trauma in a dream. We all see the projection of our own trauma from our father and try to find redemption through him. He plays the role of father, commander and moral reviewer for us at the same time, just like the Batman of this world. Batman is a Babel tower built with scars and principles for Robin. They climb it, rely on it, question it, and finally must destroy or surpass it. It's so sad that the hero creates the successor, but the successor must kill the hero to become the real self. But, he paused and said to the stunned Star-Lord, I just don't know what stage you are in now. Star-Lord, hearing the other party say his name, Star-Lord immediately put his right hand on the elemental gun on his waist. Since he could call out his name, it means that the other party is definitely well prepared and may have known his secret identity long ago. His hand touched the elemental gun, but Batman moved faster than him. Swoosh, a dark red light rushed towards Star-Lord. Star-Lord was unable to react in time, and even failed to release the celestial energy, before he fell heavily to the ground. Plop, feeling a drowsy feeling coming over him, Star-Lord tried to suppress the feeling, but in the end he was powerless to resist it, and his consciousness gradually became blurred. No. Falling on a place covered with blood and rain, Star-Lord gritted his teeth and stretched out his hand to release a celestial energy. The silver celestial energy brushed past the other person's body. The mask on Batman's face was knocked off at once. Star-Lord looked at the true face of Batman behind the mask, and an expression of disbelief appeared on his face. It's you? How is it possible? Star-Lord made an unbelievable sound. Then his eyes became blurred, and he watched the other person walk towards him step by step. Sorry, as the other person spoke, and the impact of the dark red energy, Star-Lord completely fainted. Who is he? After returning to the base, Bob asked him and Helena about the Batman who had just shot Damian. He was holding 2 guns, wearing a metal cold mask, calling himself Batman, but killing people without blinking an eye. Although such a guy was a bit bad, he was really cool in some ways. He liked to use guns to deal with criminals. In some ways, the two of them had some similarities. Jason Todd, Tim sat down and said with a headache, some people also call him Red Hood, who we didn't want to talk about before. What happened? Was Jason Todd a companion of yours before? Wei noticed the problem and asked him in a low voice. Yes, I just heard Nightwing mention it. He was Batman's Robin before me, but then an incident happened that led to his death. Mark was stunned. Death? Yes, he acted alone to save his mother, but his mother betrayed him. He went to the warehouse with his mother, but the Joker gang had already ambushed the warehouse. The reason she betrayed him was that she was worried that after the Joker was executed, her crimes known to the Joker would be exposed. In order to protect herself, she pointed the gun at her own son. After capturing Jason Todd, the Joker poured all his perverted emotions on him. He almost broke all the bones of poor Jason with a crowbar. Then the Joker tied up Jason and his mother and threw them in the warehouse, and completely blew up the place. Tim's tone was heavy. What's heartbreaking is that even at the last moment of death, even though his mother betrayed him, Jason still tried hard to block the impact of the bomb explosion for his mother. After he died, it took a long time for the old man to come out, and then for some reason, he resurrected and came back. After listening to Tim's explanation, everyone was stunned. Mark whispered, "For him, it's like losing a son. If our father had lost any son or daughter, I think he wouldn't be able to get over it." No one spoke, and the air fell silent. After an unknown amount of time, Helena knocked on the door and said to Mark, the other two, and Tim, "You should come out and see." Seeing Helena's serious expression, the others walked out of the room quickly. The TV in the living room was playing a video that appeared on the Gotham projection square. Gwen, who hadn't appeared on the screen for a long time, greeted the screen. "Hey, long time no see, Patrick, the editors, and the screenwriters. I really missed you guys when I wasn't on the screen." After Gwen introduced herself, she coughed and said, "Next, I have to announce a tragic news, that is, our Star-Lord is the first to withdraw from the battle for the farm." Then there was a picture of Star-Lord holding an out sign, looking hopeless. "What is this?" Seeing Star-Lord withdraw, Mark showed an unbelievable look on his face. Star-Lord left so soon? Who killed him? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 809, A Zoo. "Great, my brothers and sisters are coming for me. Do you know him?" Seeing Bakugo, Wei, and Mark looking nervous, Helena asked them puzzledly, "I see that you look a little nervous." "Yes." Mark did not hide it and said to the two directly, "His name is Star-Lord, also known as Peter Patrick Jr., and he is our second brother." "Ah." Helena looked at the three in shock. "Your brother, although he doesn't look like it, he is indeed our family member. For some reason, our father can't see us now. So, 7 or 8 of us brothers and sisters were exiled to this city. Only by deciding who is the final winner can we see him. In a sense, this is also a kind of competition, just like you, Tim, and Nightwing, Jason Todd, fighting for who is the final successor to Batman and who should inherit the cape. We are now also engaged in this cape battle," Mark said to the two with a depressed mood. "Now Star-Lord is the first to withdraw. It must be someone else who got rid of him." Tim and Helena listened to Mark's words and all fell silent. "So, is the newly emerged Peter Patrick also disguised by your brothers and sisters?" Tim was silent for a moment, and then asked Mark and the other two. "Yes," Mark explained to the two, "and from the perspective of power alone, each of them has the power to destroy Gotham." Hearing Mark's words, Tim and Helena showed shocked expressions. The turmoil in Gotham caused by the absence of Batman is already enough to give people a headache. What people didn't expect is that under the undercurrent on the surface, there are even more turbulent forces lurking. If you are not careful, the whole Gotham may fall into great turmoil. "Is the relationship between you brothers and sisters not good?" Helena asked Boom carefully. "Well, it's actually pretty good," Boom said insincerely. "I understand." Helena nodded and said, "It's like when there are many children in a family, there will always be some who are neglected, some who want attention, and everyone wants to get the love of their parents, but it is impossible to be equal. Compared to that, I am much luckier, because before I was 8 years old, I felt that I was the luckiest in the world. My parents only had me as their child." Helena shrugged her shoulders. "Although my father knew that I was not his daughter, and although he still beat his wife in front of his daughter and son, although I didn't know that my family was a mafia when I was young, and I didn't know that there were all kinds of transactions hidden in my family, Bayo. Why do you feel worse than me when you say that? At least my father loves me, and he has never felt unhappy." "Ahem," Tim coughed, interrupting the strange silence between everyone. He knew the misery of Helena's childhood, and knew that she, trapped by her family, had never gotten out of that nightmare. Helena told him before that she often had nightmares. Tim knew how she stopped having nightmares later. Helena's cousin told her that if she wanted revenge and wanted the nightmare to stop, she had to stop it herself, calling blood for blood. So when Helena asked her cousin what she should do, her cousin pointed to a crossbow hanging on the wall. Pulling back his thoughts, Tim asked Boom and Mark, Does that mean we could be attacked by your brothers and sisters at any time? They are always in the dark." "Yes," Mark said a little embarrassedly. "Sorry, I didn't expect things to turn out like this." Helena was more open-minded. "It doesn't matter. Anyway, we have enough troubles. Think about it on the bright side. At least one competitor has been eliminated, right?" "Boom, Wei, can you tell us about your father?" Helena had a strong interest in Peter after listening to the three of them. She wanted to see how he taught so many superhero sons and daughters. Batman has at most 4 Robins, and Peter Patrick has at least 8 or 9 Robins. Is it really true that more people can get things done? Helena looked at Boom and couldn't help but fall into wild thoughts. Of course, when talking about his father, Boom could not help but show a proud look on his face. "We live in Smallville, and my father is a local farmer. There should be a similar place in this world, where Superman lives." Boom could not stop talking, and soon told everything he knew. "And she was taken to the underworld as a bride by Hades." When Boom said this, seeing the glares from Wei and Mark, he immediately stopped bragging. She said a little embarrassedly, "That's Raven's story." "Raven?" Helena and Tim asked curiously. "Did Raven become your sister?" The two had seen the Raven in this world, but they didn't expect that the Raven in the other world would become Peter Patrick's daughter. And the other party also accepted Superman as his godson. How could such an outrageous behavior be done? The two were in a state of confusion. Finally, Helena asked cautiously, "Will your father come to our world? Will he be more terrible than the 3-Palace demon?" Mark shook his head and said, "I don't know, but I know that my father will definitely be very anxious." At the same time, in the Batcave, Raven, who was dressed as Nightwing, looked at Damien lying on the bed. "Gunshot wound, 89 stitches, and enough blood to feed an elephant," Nightwing said to Alfred next to him. He said with some self-blame, "I need to be responsible for the situation at the scene." Raven really felt a little guilty. She didn't expect that Jason would actually shoot. Alfred looked at the self-blaming Nightwing and said to him, "Many years ago, Bruce also talked about you and Master Tim, and Jason Todd several times." Nightwing raised his head and looked at the butler standing beside him. "He's right, I didn't do well enough. Nightwing didn't protect Gotham." At this time, Raven was also thinking about whether what Jason said made sense. Did the gentle approach between Batman and Nightwing make this city better? Her father always believed that the behavior that his godson Bruce insisted on was right in Gotham. Raven also always believed that her father was right before. But now that she has transformed into Nightwing, she is a little confused. She was hesitating, and suddenly saw the video of Gwen appear on the surveillance video of the Batcave. Seeing Star-Lord being eliminated, Raven was stunned. She didn't expect Star-Lord to be eliminated so soon. Was it Azu who did it? Raven immediately thought that the murderer was Azu. Except for him, no one can easily defeat Star-Lord. After all, even she dare not underestimate Star-Lord's divine power. Alfred looked at the expression on Nightwing's face that kept changing, and asked him worriedly, "Master Dick, are you okay?" "I'm fine, I just thought of a very important person." Nightwing raised his head and smiled at Alfred. "A very important person?" "Yes, a very important person. So important that if I lose him, I don't know how I should live. He gave me life and a way to survive in this society. I remember he said, the tragedy of Gotham is that it needs the symbol of Batman to maintain basic social stability, but it cannot really get rid of the cycle of violence because of the existence of this symbol." Now I really understand what he meant by this sentence. He paused and continued, "Gotham has long been caught between gang rule and supervillains. The fear of violence among ordinary citizens has been internalized as a survival instinct. The performative violence of criminals and the corruption of the bureaucracy form a symbiotic relationship, resulting in the failure of the legal system and the collapse of social trust. So the young generation who grew up here, grew up in a violent environment, eager to break the old order, but also found it difficult to get rid of the shadow of their parents." A complicated expression appeared on his face. "Now, I have been thrown into this environment and can look at society from a different perspective. I have experienced all this as a teenager who grew up in a violent environment. I think this is an experience I have never had before. Maybe this is a test Lee gave us." Alfred nodded. Although he wanted to ask who that he was, he didn't ask in the end. He always felt that the young master in front of him seemed a little different from before. Gotham City Police Department. Azu also knew the news that Star-Lord was out. Looking at the report on TV, his brows knitted tightly. "John, Do you really think that the Arkham jailbreak case is related to the murder case at the port? Commissioner Gordon asked Azu. Of course. Azu sat down on the director's office chair and said to Gordon, I caught some small shrimps before. The real mastermind is still hiding. Look at these. He pointed to the tragic photos of the bodies at the port scene placed on the table. Based on the half-dead bodies of Two-Face's men, I can say with certainty that these were all done by Killer Croc, and there are the toxicology reports of these bodies. You said the reports will not be out for 2 days. Now I can tell you that these were done by Poison Ivy. Gordon nodded. In other words, Penguin is not the mastermind behind the prison break. Yes, it's not him, nor Two-Face. I have a strong hunch that this was not done by these gangsters. It is very likely that my unruly brothers and sisters did it. They want to deal with me, your brothers and sisters. Commissioner Gordon was stunned when he heard the other party say this. But the next second, with a whoosh, Azu rushed in front of Gordon to block him. Boom. Chapter 810 Loki. Father, it's a pity that I can't share the joy of success with you. The moment Zu moved behind Gordon, a deafening explosion sounded. The flames from the bottom of the building swept upstairs in an instant. Boom, the flames hit him hard. The shock wave swept everything in the office away. Gordon, who was at the door of the office, was not affected by the explosion because he was protected by Zu. But the strong burning sensation still sprayed on his face. The cabinets and other glass materials in the office were rushed to the surroundings in the explosion shock wave. A deafening sound sounded, and smoke and dust quickly filled the surroundings. Ahem, when Gordon reacted and saw the room after the explosion, he showed a look of astonishment on his face. What happened? Gordon, who was dizzy from the shock and covered his mouth and nose, raised his head and asked Zu in shock, why did the explosion happen? Was it a terrorist attack? Zu looked outside and soon found the target he was looking for. Swoosh, he activated his super speed and left the room in an instant. Before Gordon got up and went downstairs to check the police station that was attacked by a bomb, Zu teleported into the room again. But this time he was holding a bald man covered in a metal uniform. The other person's face was covered with pus and blood bubbles, which looked a bit disgusting. Zu grabbed the metal ring around the other person's neck and threw him to the ground with a bang. Now, tell me who you are. Zu stepped on the chest of the groaning other person and asked him, who sent you? I didn't expect that the newly appointed chief of the Gotham Police Department would actually cooperate with outsiders, and it was an unscrupulous superpower. The bald man taunted Gordon. Has the Gotham Police Department also fallen? Before Chief Gordon could answer, Zu exerted a little force with his feet and instantly broke the other person's ribs, causing the other person to groan. It seems that you don't know what your situation is. Zu's eyes turned dark red, and he looked like he could shoot out hot eyes at any time. Now, tell me, who are you? I'm Atom Bomb. I'm Two-Face's subordinate. I'm here to announce on behalf of Two-Face that we are going to take over everything in Gotham, and you are powerless and there is no way to stop this. Very good, you can go to hell. Looking at Atom Bomb, who was caught and continued to clamor, Zu's eyes shot out hot rays, and he was about to shoot through the guy's head completely. Wait, Gordon immediately stretched out his hand to stop him. Don't kill him. Zu squinted at him. Do you want to be a good person? Now they are all here to kill us. Chief Gordon, your kindness will be regarded as weakness by them, I know, but this is in the police station. If you want our cooperation to continue, you should listen to me here, okay, as long as you like it. Zu shrugged his shoulders, the red light in his eyes gradually extinguished, and he moved his feet away from Atom Bomb. As the two were talking, Harvey came up from upstairs and asked Gordon, Chief, are you okay? I'm fine. How's the situation down there? Harvey Bullock took off his coat that was stained with a lot of dust and said to Gordon, some police officers were injured, but fortunately no police officers died. That's good. It seems that Two-Face's declaration has caused quite a stir. Gordon frowned and said, this guy caused such a big stir. Does he want to commit suicide? What is his purpose? What can he gain by turning Gotham into a battlefield? If the military intervenes, he will have no chance of winning at all. As you said from the side, that may only mean one thing, that is, he is indeed committing suicide. Soon Azu said again, but I don't think he is so brainless, unless someone is under the banner of Two-Face. Azu seriously suspected that it was one of his brothers and sisters who did it. And this guy is hiding in the dark, just ready to give them a fatal blow at any time. Who is it? Now that Star-Lord is out, is it Loki? Or Raven? Or Tom? Azu's brows knitted tightly. If he followed his usual idea, what cape battle, He would transform himself into Homelander, like his father did before, and catch all the villains in Gotham overnight, and the whole Gotham would be calm. But now he knows that he can never do this. Because his enemies are not these supervillains, or the fake Batman that appears on the street. He has only one enemy, that is, his brothers and sisters. Want to play with me? Brothers and sisters, as he looked at the night outside the window and snorted coldly. Very good, I will continue to play with you. Let's see who laughs last. A trace of ruthlessness flashed in Azu's eyes. I am my father's proudest child, I am the eldest son, as long as I want, I can easily deal with you. The next day, due to the terrorist attack on Gotham by Two-Face, the military cooperated with the police department and soon began to crack down on Two-Face. As a result, the Penguin, who had previously competed with Two-Face for territory, also became the target of the attack. I'm Vicky Weir, reporting live from Area 52 on Bridge Road. Armed Black Hawk helicopters are attacking a suspected base of Two-Face. Vicky Weir, a beautiful blonde TV reporter, was broadcasting live to the camera. The government previously claimed that a Black Hawk was shot down by a shoulder-fired rocket, and the whole city was under a strict curfew. Vicky Weir said to the audience in front of the TV screen, the public is required to stay at home until the Federal Army regains control of the city. In addition, about 3,000 Army and Marine soldiers have entered the Gotham City area and started to sweep suspected gangs. The operation is expected to continue until tomorrow night. The cameraman focused the screen on the soldiers in action. Then Vicky Weir continued to tell the reporter, the target of this operation is Harvey Dent, known as Two-Face, and his old rival, the Penguin, Oswald Chesterfield Cobblepot. When she said this, the screen cut to the dejected Penguin, who is escorted by a group of military police and sent to a police car. It is reported that both of them are involved in the street war for control of the Gotham City underworld. After the introduction, Vicky Weir turned the microphone to a guy wearing a hood and a mask that covered himself tightly. Beside me is Mr. Jones, a famous Batman and organized crime research expert. Mr. Jones, why do you think this happened? This is normal. Jones talked to the beautiful reporter. Batman's disappearance means that the god of Gotham City has disappeared. There is no one to take charge of Gotham's safety. Wait, Vicky Weir interrupted him. You just called Batman the god of Gotham City. Isn't this an obvious fact? Batman is no longer just a person. He is fear. He is reincarnation. He is retribution. I can go on and on. Click. Before the so-called expert could continue, Black Mask turned off the TV. Sitting on a chair in an empty room, Black Mask slowly untied the mask on his face, revealing his true face, Loki. Although the grand blueprint has been unfolded, there is no doubt that the real challenge has just begun. Loki smiled and put the black mask in his hand on the table. Then he stood up and gently put on the horn crown given to him by Peter. But at this moment, I can taste the taste of success. Loki dressed up as the Black Mask and used a little trick to send away the two biggest obstacles in Gotham City, Two-Face and Penguin. But he knew that the next step was the most important challenge. Because he was about to face his brothers and sisters. What a pity, Loki sighed with some regret. Dad, you are not here now and cannot share the joy with me. He was a little sorry that he could not share the taste of his success with Peter. Walking towards the wine cabinet in the room, Loki opened the cabinet and took out a glass of red wine from it. Usually, he was never allowed to drink on the farm. Because Loki was not yet 18 years old. Now without Peter's control, Loki completely let himself go. He poured himself a glass of red wine, then filled another glass, and then raised it to the empty glass, clinking it with a good mood and a sense of ceremony. Cheers, Dad. After toasting Peter who is not on this world, Loki drank it all in one gulp. Then he got drunk instantly, and his face turned red. What kind of wine is this? With the thunderous actions of the police and the military, the gang dens of Two-Face and Penguin were quickly destroyed. Penguin was also quickly arrested, and only Two-Face fled in embarrassment with a few cronies. On the Gotham Grand Canal, a cargo ship was speeding forward in the waves. Two-Face, disguised as a crew member, angrily asked his subordinate in charge of intelligence, "Who is it, Duffy, who killed the two underground kings in the city without any loss? Who is this person?" The tied-up Duffy said to him in horror. "Sorry, I don't know, boss, I swear. Maybe it's the Joker, only he has the courage to attack you." In order to escape the punishment of Two-Face, Duffy immediately thought of a suspect. Wrong answer. But it does look like a joke against me, right? Goodbye, Duffy. As he said that, He stretched out his hand and pushed his Minister of Intelligence into the canal. Plop, looking at his subordinate who disappeared after struggling in the canal for a few times, Two-Face said coldly, "Go reunite with your wife and children, they are waiting for you down there." Chapter 811, Wei has some bad ideas about the Huntress. Peter, who was toasted by Loki across the world, seemed to sense something. He looked up and looked outside the farm. "Are you okay, Master?" Leela asked worriedly. "Yes, I'm fine. I just haven't contacted Siri recently and feel a little bored." Peter had given Siri the sands and the sandbag of the God of Sleep before she left to ensure that the two could contact each other. But now Peter tried to contact her with the sand, but he never got a response. Could it be that Siri had entered some strange world again? "Master, who is this Siri you are talking about?" Leela asked curiously. As a nightmare creature created by Peter and transformed by the power of Superman's dream vision, Leela could clearly perceive Peter's state of mind. And her soul belonged to Peter, and the emotions of the two were common in some ways. Leela could feel that Peter had an unusual feeling for this girl named Siri. This made her a little jealous. She is a girl who can travel through different worlds at will. She is helpful, talkative, confident, and has a good fighting ability. Leela nodded. "Then sir, do you know what worlds she has been to? Has she even entered our world?" "That's not necessarily true," Peter thought for a while and said, "as for the worlds she has been to, there are many. She said that she has been to a different world where humans have a piece of metal in their brains. They can use something like a telescope to wage war from a distance without having to be there in person. There are no horses or cars there, and everyone has their own exclusive spaceship." Based on what Siri said, Peter seriously suspected that she had gone to the world of Cyberpunk 2077. And she has also been to the world of King Arthur and has a very loyal fan Galahad. Siri had told him before that the night Galahad met Siri bathing by the lake. He mistakenly thought that this beautiful girl was the legendary fairy of the lake, and expected her to give him the legendary sword of the King Excalibur. The fairy of the lake? It's incredible, sir. It turns out that the legend of the fairy of the lake was created by Siri, a visitor from another world. Leela was shocked. "Now that you said that she caused the Second World War, I am not surprised." Peter coughed. "It's not that exaggerated. Anyway, traveling through different dimensions is Siri's natural talent." He was telling Leela about the Witcher and Siri's elven bloodline, when he suddenly felt the Witcher badge that Siri gave her move in his hand. Peter stood up immediately. "There is a sorceress." "What's wrong?" "Master," Leela saw Peter's serious expression and became nervous. "Someone is coming, downstairs." Kara was discussing the latest Quidditch World Cup with Hermione in a low voice. Unlike the Kara in this world, she likes gambling and doing business and often loses all her money. Kara in the world of injustice has experienced Brainiac's destruction of her hometown and her cousin's evil transformation. Compared with Kara in this world, she is more mature and melancholy, but she is still a young girl who has not experienced too much in her bones. She likes to pursue the avant-garde and likes things that are popular among teenagers. Kara in this world has no interest in this kind of Quidditch game. She prefers to pull her Kryptonian compatriots to invest and do business. Outside the farm, Siri, carrying a silver sword, finally appeared on the farm. Taking a deep breath, looking at the familiar world tree on the farm, Siri entered the farm with a smile on her lips. Squeak! Kara heard the sound of the door being pushed open and raised her head, and saw a girl with a unique temperament. The girl has a signature short gray-white hair, green pupils, a delicate face and a little heroic. She is slender but has tight muscle lines, showing a unique and agile body. The girl's uniform is a light leather armor, with metal shoulder pads and belts, and decorated with emblems that don't know where they belong. Siri, who is noble and charming, elegant and powerful, left a deep impression on Kara right from the start. Hermione and Harry were also stunned. Siri, hey, Harry, Hermione, long time no see, is the gentleman here? Siri greeted Harry and Hermione and asked them. Harry stammered, yes, he's upstairs, thanks, Harry. Siri walked over and patted Harry on the shoulder. You've grown a lot taller, upstairs. Peter and Siri stared at each other from a distance of 10 steps, and the air seemed to freeze. Siri's mouth twitched, as if she wanted to laugh, but was suppressed by the sob in her throat. Peter was stunned for a while, and then a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Sir, long time no see, Siri's hoarse voice broke the silence. Peter opened his arms, his movements were clumsy but firm. At that moment, The calmness of the time traveler Siri and the vigilance of the Witcher collapsed on her. She almost fell into his arms. "Welcome back, Siri." Peter touched Siri's silver hair and whispered. On the other side. The world of the battle for the Cape. After the military and police arrested a large number of gangsters during the day, Gotham calmed down for a short time. Tim acted on his own, Huntress Helena said anxiously to Bomb, Mark and Way. He wore Batman's clothes and went to find Jason Todd without permission. Mark asked in surprise, "When?" "I don't know," Helena shook her head and said. "When I found that Batman's uniform was missing, he had already disappeared. I guess he left in the afternoon. We have to find him." Mark stood up. "If he was alone, it would be easy to get into danger. According to what you said, Jason Todd is a dangerous person. He was about to go outside to look for Tim." "Wait, are you going to act now? There's a curfew outside, and don't you need to prepare something?" Helena stopped Mark, Bomb and Way who were preparing to act. No, I don't need anything." Mark said that he didn't need any tools. Helen shook her head and said, "I think you'd better hide your identities." "Didn't you say that your other brothers and sisters are looking for you?" Hearing Helena's words, the three looked at each other. "Here are some of Batman and Robin's former uniforms. Maybe it can help hide your identities." A few minutes later, Mark looked at the somewhat awkward Batman uniform on his body, and wanted to complain that he now looked a bit like a low-quality pirated product on TV. "I feel like a guy who strayed into the comic exhibition." Mark looked at the Batman uniform he was wearing. The black cape had a wrinkled texture, the Bat logo was a sharp geometric shape, and the sunken design of the mask size was full of mystery, but because it didn't fit him well, it looked a bit awkward. Mark was not satisfied, and the two people next to him were even more dissatisfied. "Why do I feel that Robin's clothes are uglier than Batman's?" Boom couldn't help complaining. Although he was very unhappy, because he had no choice, Boom could only accept it helplessly and transformed into Robin. Half an hour later, Boom, Way, Mark and Helena acted separately. Boom and Mark were in one team, while V and Helena were in two teams, keeping in touch with each other to find Tim's trace. On the deserted street, V spread her cape and jumped from the top of a building to another roof. The Huntress followed her footsteps and followed closely. "V, did your father teach you these abilities?" The Huntress stood on the roof curiously and asked her, who was wearing a mask and dressed as Red Robin. "My father taught me boxing and how to defeat the enemy quickly and efficiently, but these are not important." "Then what is important?" Helena asked her. "The most important thing is your attitude towards life." After V finished speaking, a smile appeared at the corner of her mouth, and she lowered her voice and said, "Helena, do you like girls?" "What?" Helena immediately looked at her alertly. "You little brat, do you want to pick me up?" V was about to explain when she saw the shadow of Batman appear in the church in the distance. There, she immediately ran towards the church. Ding! The metal vibration sound came from the spire 50 meters away, and the pupils of Batman suddenly shrank. That was the sound of a crossbow arrow grazing the air. He flipped over and jumped off the windowsill like a cheetah. 3 carbon fiber crossbow arrows were instantly nailed into the position where he was standing. The sound-absorbing velvet at the tail of the arrow was still hissing and smoking in the air. Helena and Way rushed to the scene and saw Batman dodging the arrows. The guy holding 2 guns and wearing a metal Batman mask. "What did you do to Tim, Jason?" Helena asked the other party angrily. "That depends on whether you have the ability to make me tell you." Jason immediately raised his gun and fired bullets. The Huntress dodged the bullets, her tight combat suit blended into the shadows, and only the silver cross necklace weighed on her chest. Facing the Huntress's evasion, Jason grinned. Then he suddenly raised his gun and broke the iron chain of the overhead chandelier, and the 300-pound brass lampstand fell on her. Bang! The moment the Huntress raised her head, Way rushed over with a roar and punched the 300-pound brass lampstand away. But at the same time, 2 miniature bombs slid along the steel cable towards Helena, turning the entire altar into a sea of fire. Then he rushed forward in the heat wave, and the dagger slashed across Helena's throat, but only cut off a few strands of black hair. Helena took advantage of the shock wave of the explosion to flip back, and the crossbow fired continuously. Dang! Ding! Ding! Jason's breastplate splashed with sparks. At the same time, Way shouted angrily, rushed over fiercely, and knocked the opponent away with a punch. With a bang, Jason rolled and fell to the ground of the church. Very good, a new Robin, and a Robin with good combat effectiveness. Jason fell to the ground, breathing heavily. "Do you want to be Batman's subordinate?" Chapter 812 Wei vs. Tom, Wei's anger. Moonlight poured down from the broken dome, dyeing the abandoned St. Margaret's Monastery dark. No, I have no interest in becoming Batman's Robin. I just want to catch you, Wei said as she was about to grab the other's clothes. Bang! The next second, a bullet shot at Wei from behind. Be careful, Helena immediately reminded Wei and shouted at her. Wei reacted quickly, stood up quickly, and dodged to the nearby cover. The two raised their heads and looked in the direction of the bullet, but they didn't find anything. Jason Todd took this opportunity to stand up and hide in the shadows. Helena hid behind the stone pillars, and the crosshairs of the crossbow moved between the stone pillars. In her sight, she saw that the shadow of the 3rd Corinthian column on the left suddenly twisted. Swoosh! 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 The moment the bullet brushed past her ear, Helena's compound crossbow had completed 3 bursts. The poisoned arrow penetrated a stone pillar, but was bounced off by the invisible barrier the moment it touched the shadow. Seeing the shadow appear, Wei roared and immediately attacked the opponent. The moment she rushed to the opponent, Wei was shocked to find that the opponent was another Batman holding 2 guns and wearing a metal mask. 2 Batman? 2 Jason Todd. Wei was stunned. Helena next to her didn't expect to see this scene, and her face was full of disbelief. Jason Todd, who was punched by Wei in a church, also had a confused expression on his face. He didn't expect that there would be someone dressed like him. What is this? I imitate Batman, and the guy opposite imitates me? Jason Todd himself fell into a huge shock. Wei looked at the other Batman with 2 guns, and didn't care so much, and rushed over directly. Her gloves unfolded the second form the force field generator popped out from her fingers. After absorbing the technology of Brainiac in the world of Injustice, Wei's strength has also made rapid progress. Her gloves have evolved again. Batman's thermal imaging goggles captured the energy fluctuations, and he pulled out a serrated dagger from the inside of his coat. The sound of metal colliding rang out in the abandoned church. The shockwaves from the gloves broke several of the dagger's teeth with each strike, but Batman was always able to retreat with a force, as if he was dancing a deadly waltz. After several collisions, he suddenly ducked and threw out his tactical belt, rushing towards Wei's neck. Ah! Wei roared, and her left-hand glove transformed into a rotating cutting wheel, twisting the tactical belt into scrap metal. But this action opened her right side wide, and Batman's boot tip ejected a sharp blade, piercing the back of her knee. Seeing that Wei was about to be attacked, the Huntress immediately attacked, and the crossbow arrow she shot instantly deflected the sharp blade. Seeing Helena preparing to attack, the real Jason Todd had already reacted from his confusion, and when he saw Helena take action, he immediately launched an attack on her. Helena, who was entangled by Jason, had no time to take care of Wei, so she could only let her fight alone. After knocking Batman back with a punch, Wei's arm was also hit hard. Panting slightly, the hex core on the back of her gloves began to overclock. Wei, who had output the power to the maximum, was ready to fight desperately. Seeing this scene, Batman knew that Wei had decided to use a big move, so he no longer hid. With a bang, he threw the 2 pistols in his hands and took out a magic wand. Batman raised the magic wand made of branches of the World Tree, and a group of ravens condensed by black smoke emerged from the tip of the wand. With his movements, the ravens turned into sharp arrows and swooped down on Wei. Be careful, Helena saw the opponent's sudden move, and was shocked and immediately released a crossbow arrow towards the crows. The crossbow arrow accurately pierced the eye socket of the leading raven. The pierced magical creature exploded, and the gray smoke immediately engulfed the surrounding space. Helena was busy helping Wei and didn't notice her opponent Jason. Bang! Jason fired a shot, hitting her shoulder and knocking her to the ground. Although Jason didn't know who this guy was who was dressed the same as himself, but suddenly took out a strange wand and released magic. But adhering to the principle that the enemy of my enemy is my friend, Jason temporarily formed an alliance with the other party. Helena, who was shot, rolled to the back of the confession room in pain. Seeing this scene, Wei gritted her teeth and looked at the guy who suddenly raised the wand in front of her. There is no doubt that the guy holding the wand is one of her brothers and sisters. It's not Loki, it's Tom. Looking at the hide and the familiar wand, this guy is Tom Patrick. It's you. Tom Patrick, Wei looked at him angrily. Batman, that is, Tom, who disguised himself as Jason and sent Star-Lord away before, had a hint of surprise in his voice. How smart, Wei, you figured out it was me so quickly, but, we are competing now, so. I'm sorry, I can't hold back. Wei looked at her angrily. I'm your sister. We are a family. There is no such thing as family in war. Wei, Tom had just finished speaking. Petrification. The moment the spell shattered the table, Wei jumped out of the broken window on the side. The power provided by the gloves made her swing like a pendulum towards the atrium. Tom's silent spell had already caught up, and the sharp-edged shadowless spell shot towards the ground behind her. Wei suddenly jumped into the air, stepped on the wall and accelerated suddenly, turned around and rushed towards Tom. Facing Wei's fierce attack, Tom instantly released a fierce fire spell. Wei had to hastily use the gloves to block the flames. Boom! The explosion wave generated by the collision of the fierce fire spells turned the entire prayer hall into a ruined place. The flames instantly swept the church. At the same time, Helena, who was lying on the ground, locked onto the elusive figure in the heat wave. Tom was walking in the flames, and Batman's uniform was licked by the magic flames but was unscathed. His wand drew ancient runes, and the sound of bones rubbing against each other came from the ground. Several ancient knights wrapped in armor broke out of the ground, and the rusty swords were all pointed at Wei. Helena was a little desperate. What kind of monsters are these brothers and sisters of Wei? Any one of them who popped out is this kind of pervert. Will there be more perverts later? Sorry, Wei, you have to leave first. Stop talking big, Tom. You always look like you are ready to plot at any time on the farm. Don't pretend like this now. You just want to get the attention of your only father. I have known it for a long time. Wei glared at him. Also, don't think you can beat me. I just hide it and don't want to show it. I'm not weak. I am also your father's daughter, no weaker than you. As Wei roared with her gloves, blue light was released on her gloves. A powerful energy gathered in her gloves. Tom, aware of the threat, quickly waved his wand to change his position, but found that the space was anchored by some force. Wei's gloves completed the transformation at this time, and the folded parts unfolded into a huge half-human high glove. The moment the blue energy air appeared, Tom's wand burst into dazzling red light. The energies collided with each other in midair, and the bursting energy shattered the dissolving knight's skeleton into powder. With a bang, Wei was blown away by the air wave and hit the wall. Tom's right arm was unable to lift up due to the backlash. Wei, who fell to the ground, wanted to stand up quickly, but Jason Todd had already controlled the huntress. Stop. Robin girl, your companion has fallen into my hands. Chapter 813 Wei's defeat, Tom's meanness. If you don't want to surrender, your partner may not have such a good outcome. Jason held Helena's neck with one hand, pointed the gun at her, and threatened Wei. Seeing Helena fall into Jason's hands, Wei immediately stopped her actions and stared at him with angry eyes. You are so despicable, Jason Todd. If you call a tactic despicable, then everything in this world will be easy, Jason said to Wei, who was gritting his teeth. Now, take off your gloves, or, before he finished speaking, Tom, who was wearing a metal Batman mask, suddenly said, you leave now. Before he finished speaking, Tom suddenly pointed the wand in his hand at Jason Todd. Swoosh! Before Jason could react, the wand in Tom's hand released a red magic shock, which hit Jason heavily. Jason groaned, rolled on the ground, and finally hit the wall heavily, shaking off a lot of dust. Tom's sudden action not only made Jason, who was knocked away by him, unable to react, but also shocked Wei and Helena. Why? Wei didn't understand why Tom attacked Jason. Putting away his wand, Tom said coldly to Jason, who was lying on the ground, holding his chest and gasping for breath, she is my sister, it is not your turn to threaten her, you. Jason looked at Tom angrily. He thought he was already a weird person, but compared with this guy in front of him, he felt that he was a normal person. Since she is your sister, why did you attack him? Wei also looked at Tom in a daze. She didn't expect this guy to defend herself. She remembered hearing her father say that Tom was cold on the outside but warm on the inside, and extremely smart. Although he didn't show it usually, he attached great importance to the feelings of his family. Although she always thought this guy was quite arrogant, she heard that Tom had become a prefect in school and was running for the president of the student union. The purebloods supported him and let him lead a small group. He even had a lot of followers. But Wei always felt that Tom didn't seem to have real friends. Everything he did had his own purpose. But now, hearing the other party's defense, Wei's heart was stirred up by different ripples. After Tom and Jason finished talking, they turned their eyes to Wei. Although there were some accidents, Wei, you can't defeat me now. Tom slowly raised his wand to Wei. But why? Wei asked Tom indignantly. Do you really want to be the only winner according to Gwen's idea? If Dad knew that you used despicable means to defeat everyone else, Dad would not be happy, because Dad never wants us to kill each other. No, you are wrong, Wei. Tom's right hand was injured and couldn't be raised, so he switched the wand to his left hand. We didn't kill each other. I just want to prove one thing, that is, my talent is the most powerful, and my ambition can also clear all obstacles for my father. I can be his proudest and most powerful son. Tom's eyes were fixed on the moonlight behind the stunned Wei, which was pouring through the church window. Before I met my father, I didn't have a so-called happy family in my childhood. I was not the fruit of my parents' love. I was born only because of my biological mother's one-sided love for that man and some love potions. Do you know what I longed for at that time? I longed for family affection and blood relationship. Tom Patrick said to her coldly. Do you know how the me in another world treats this kind of feeling? Wei was stunned when she heard Tom's words. She suspected that the me in another world he was talking about was Voldemort. The other me finally overcame all difficulties and found my own name, and knew my life experience and family. At that moment, he, the me in another world, finally found a sense of belonging. The Gaunt family has a very bad reputation in the wizarding world. The former wealth was also consumed because of their love of luxury. The complex and huge family history made him proud. There are 2 elders in the family who founded 2 magic schools one after another. Such achievements are unmatched, Tom continued to narrate in a calm tone. After the joy came silence. As the last heir of Slytherin and Gaunt, he had a lot to do, including finding his family to get back what belonged to him and fulfilling the will of his ancestors. Morphin was not a good uncle. He did not give him the family affection he longed for. Instead, he looked down on him for being a half-blood because of his appearance. Morphin did not care about his sister's death, but only cared about the missing locket. He also told him that his Muggle father lived in Great Angleton. The Muggle father gave him this handsome face, cold and resolute. The moment the father saw his son, there was no unexpected surprise. The pain after being deceived by lies was all vented on an innocent child. At this point, his eyes looked directly at Tom Riddle and did his good thoughts. The word father made him sick, and for me, the word father represents the ultimate goal of all my ambitions and desires. Tom Riddle is a dark side of me, and I have never abandoned him, so, for the sake of victory and my ambition, for the sake of a proof, my sister, I can only let you leave. Also, I don't care who is Gotham's Batman, or who gets the cape. I just want to be the final winner. Wei looked at Tom, who was calm and confident, and seemed to have everything under control. Suddenly, she felt that this guy was quite annoying. You don't have the final say. I haven't lost yet, Wei roared, grabbing her boxing gloves and rushing towards Tom. But before she rushed to Tom, she suddenly felt weak all over. Then her feet softened and her body fell to the ground uncontrollably. Plop! Wei, who felt her strength being drained out, fell to the ground and raised her head with difficulty, looking at Tom, who had a calm face. What did you do? It's very simple. I used the runes my father taught me to set up a magic circle here, Tom slowly said to the other party. Why do you think I told you this just now? Wei, you are still too naive and easy to be deceived. If you do this, you can't be a Smallville law enforcement officer or a Piltover law enforcement officer to deal with those criminals. Wei, she now fully understood the word despicable villain that her father said. On the other side, seeing Wei fall down, the anxious Helena wanted to come to save her. But before she could act, Tom immediately released a fainting spell. Helena, who was unable to react, fell heavily to the ground and fainted instantly. Looking at Helena, who was in a coma, and Wei, who was unable to move, Tom put away his wand, untied the bat mask, revealing the handsome and somewhat serious face inside. Sorry, Wei. At the same time, Bomb and Mark became more and more anxious because they could not contact the two for a long time. In the dim night sky, Mark didn't care about anything else and flew in the air to observe the situation below the city. Boom grabbed his Batman cape and followed him in the air to observe the situation below. Soon Mark found an unusual place. The abandoned church was in a mess, as if it had experienced a war. Boom! Mark fell down and looked at the surrounding environment, frowning. There should have been a battle here just now. Mark walked to the center of the church and picked up a metal Batman mask. This is Jason Todd's. Jason Todd. Boom came over and asked him, does this mean that V and the Huntress may encounter the Red Hood Jason Todd, and then be defeated and taken away by him? Thinking that V might be in danger, Boom became anxious. No. We have to find this guy's lair quickly. If something happens to V, how can I, as the eldest daughter, explain to my father? Mark, do you really think you are the eldest daughter? Wait until you meet Raven, and see how she will deal with you. Although he was secretly criticizing Boom, Mark's expression was very serious. Don't worry, I think this guy must have his own purpose. Helena and Wei may not be in danger now. Mark used the communicator that came with Batman's uniform to contact Nightwing. Maybe Nightwing knew where Jason Todd was. In the center of Gotham City, Robinson Amphitheater was holding an awards ceremony for Gotham's publishing industry. As an annual publishing industry event, this year it was held in Gotham. The attendees were all social elites and important figures in the publishing and news industries. Standing at the highest point of the building opposite the theater, a woman wearing a dark purple uniform, a black mask and a hood on her head was squatting on it, watching the many guests at the scene. Stephanie Brown, hidden in the dark, watched all this quietly. Batgirl named Stephanie Brown, also known as the Troublemaker, is actually the daughter of the Clue Master, who is a third-rate criminal in Gotham City. Stephanie experienced a fatherless childhood. Her father was either in prison or fooling around outside during this time. Later, her father returned to Gotham City, claiming that he was vindicated, but Stephanie was furious to find that he was actually back to commit crimes. But this time the Clue Master did not leave the usual clues. Stephanie decided to do something, made a costume for herself, and called herself a troublemaker. After successfully preventing her father from committing a crime, Stephanie became obsessed with a feeling of being a superhero. Every time her father was released from prison to carry out a criminal plan, she would always disrupt it and began to patrol regularly at night. Now, Stephanie Brown, standing here, has returned to Gotham and is ready to start over. Gotham Batman has disappeared, and she needs to do something for this city. Standing at the highest point, Stephanie's eyes suddenly saw a familiar person. Chapter 814, Azu and Horace, a fateful duel. An older woman was talking to someone. She knew the other person, Leslie Tompkinson, who had faked his own death in Africa a year ago and sent her to Africa. In the previous War Games incident, in order to prove herself to Batman, Stephanie stole and implemented a long-term plan of Batman to deal with the entire Gotham City gang. What she didn't know was that everything in this plan was based on the participation of the gang member Match Malone, a hidden identity of Batman. Without the participation of Match Malone, the plan quickly got out of control, and eventually led to the outbreak of a gang war that swept across Gotham City. During the incident, Stephanie was caught by Black Mask, who tortured her cruelly in order to obtain information about Batman. After Stephanie escaped, she died in the clinic of Dr. Leslie Tompkins. Now resurrected from the dead and returned to Gotham, Stephanie's eyes have been looking for Tim among the celebrities. But Tim has never been found. As the adopted son of billionaire Bruce Wayne, Tim would definitely attend such a party. Did something happen? Stephanie immediately fell into anxiety. She had a good relationship with Tim and even admired him. Now that she didn't see Tim, she was a little worried about his safety. Just when she was a little uneasy, she suddenly saw a commotion in the theater. Then Stephanie saw a beautiful figure running away from the theater. The night walker with black hair, a beautiful figure, and a black evening dress jumped onto the hot air balloon prepared in advance and left. Stephanie naturally would not watch this thief leave. When the night walker's silver high heels stepped on the edge of the hot air balloon basket, Stephanie Brown's tactical boots were stuck in the gap of the steel beams on the ceiling of the theater. When the hot air balloon began to rise, Stephanie jumped from the 30-meter high truss. With a bang, she grabbed the auxiliary cable that fixed the balloon while falling, and used the force to swing towards the basket. Seeing Stephanie suddenly appear, the Nightwalker had to leave the basket and jump to the rooftop of the nearest building. Bang! The moment she jumped to the rooftop, Stephanie followed her down. It seems that you finally stopped counting on your hot air balloon, right? Stephanie stood up slowly and taunted the Nightwalker. The Nightwalker did not intend to run away, but said to her calmly, "Don't underestimate the call of the night, little girl." As she spoke, she walked towards Stephanie. "This great ball under our feet attracts me with the possibility of receiving generous gifts." Stephanie's cloak rustled in the night sky. "In human terms, that means you plan to rob the group of rich people downstairs." The Nightwalker was a little annoyed by Stephanie's words. "It seems that you don't know how powerful I am, little girl. Let me tell you, those who bravely face the night are more likely to fall into the arms of others." Before she finished speaking, She quickly disappeared into the shadows. Seeing the Nightwalker disappear, Stephanie was stunned. Blend into the shadows? I haven't seen this trick on her happy webpage. Just as Stephanie was complaining, the next second, the Nightwalker's figure swooshed and suddenly appeared in front of her. Stephanie immediately responded by turning her head to dodge, and the shining dagger passed the tip of her ear. Rushing forward, her left hand had already grabbed the opponent's elbow. While grabbing the opponent, Stephanie said to the Nightwalker, "That's a good move." Facing Stephanie's ridicule, the Nightwalker spun around and kicked out a scissor kick, and the metal tip of the stiletto heel went straight to the throat. Stephanie shrank her neck and leaned back, her legs stabilizing her center of gravity, and her right hand turned into a knife and slashed at the opponent's knee. The moment the Nightwalker relaxed in pain, Stephanie's thumb pressed accurately on the inside of her wrist. Then she threw the opponent out with a bang. But soon the Nightwalker fell to the ground and disappeared. The moonlight was swallowed by the dark clouds at this time, and the roof was instantly plunged into absolute darkness. Stephanie took a deep breath, closed her eyes and listened. She knew that the opponent had disappeared in the darkness. 3 meters behind the right, the waterproof cloth groaned slightly when it was stepped on. Stephanie spun around and kicked out a roundhouse kick, but only swept the cold air. Then her left ear suddenly felt a disturbance of airflow, and Stephanie immediately leaned back like an iron bridge. With a whoosh, the night woman's knee almost scratched her nose. Seeing that she couldn't determine the other party's position, Stephanie suddenly grabbed the insulation debris and threw it aside. The crisp sound of the debris hitting the metal water tank exposed the true position of the night woman. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Stephanie pounced on the ventilation duct in the northwest corner like a leopard, and heard a muffled groan when her hand knife hit the entity. But the next moment, when Stephanie's fingertips touched the other party's belt buckle, 2 clusters of dim lights suddenly lit up in the darkness. The woman actually embedded the stolen phosphorescent diamonds in the toe of her shoes. A heavy bang sounded. At the moment of blinding by the strong light, Stephanie slid along the steel beam to the cooling tower, but her ankle was entangled by the barbed wire. Ballet class starts now. The night woman took advantage of the force to jump into the air, twisted her legs around the steel beam, and kicked Stephanie upside down. With a bang, Stephanie was hit hard in the abdomen. Enduring the pain, she took the opportunity to lock the other's ankle with her knee. The two of them were suspended in the air like a pendulum. Stephanie gritted her teeth and punched the other's chest hard. Bang! Taking advantage of the gap between the other's muscle spasms, she used her waist strength to flip over the steel beam and locked the night girl's left arm with a cross lock. Creaky, just as the two were fighting, the steel beam suddenly made a trembling sound. The load-bearing column bolts could no longer support the weight of the two. Splash! The two were caught off guard and fell heavily into the emergency water tank on the roof. The smelly water instantly submerged their chests. The night girl slid away from the grab like an eel underwater, and the blade hidden in her nails scratched Stephanie's skin under her ribs. The moment the blood mist dissipated, Stephanie held her breath and dived, grabbing the other's long hair by touch. Bang! The muffled sound of the night girl's head hitting the wall of the water tank startled the pigeons that were roosting. The moment the two surfaced to breathe, Stephanie's knee hit the other's tailbone. Just as the two were fighting in the water tank, wet and powerful, a rope suddenly dropped from above. The two jumped out of the water tank without caring about anything else. Shaking off the water on her head, the night girl was about to continue fighting when she suddenly noticed a figure appearing on the rooftop. The man with a strange mask, his cloak behind him was blown in the air by the wind, and he was watching the two. Seeing this, Stephanie immediately stopped and looked at him in surprise. Standing on the rooftop, the person who suddenly appeared and rescued Stephanie was the one who called himself Peter Patrick. At this time, his sharp eyes behind the mask stared at the two. "You are arrested, lady," he said to the wet night girl. "You want to arrest me? Then come on." The night girl immediately activated her ability and disappeared into the darkness. But before she completely disappeared into the darkness, Peter Patrick stretched out his right hand and pointed it in the direction where she disappeared. As he moved down, a powerful energy rushed out instantly. With a bang, the night girl hidden in the darkness groaned in pain and fell to the ground. After the night girl appeared, she fell to the ground, holding her chest, and looked at the man wearing a strange mask in shock. She didn't expect that the other party could easily see where she was. She staggered and wanted to stand up, but she couldn't do it, as if all the strength in her body had been drained. "Who are you?" Stephanie asked in astonishment when she saw him solve the night girl with one blow. I'm Peter Patrick." The mysterious man called himself Peter and said to Stephanie, "I know you, Stephanie Brown, a frivolous girl, flirtatious." Hearing this word, Stephanie was a little annoyed. "Who do you think you are?" "Peter Patrick, you guy. I remember, the newspaper reported that you are a superhero who appeared recently, but, wait, how do you know my name?" Stephanie asked in shock. She didn't expect the other party to call her name directly. "That's not difficult for me because I have very high intelligence, especially in electronic technology," Peter shrugged, "so I can find your information instantly." "Then what do you want to do? Want to be the new superhero of the city? Replace Batman?" Stephanie asked the other party continuously. "No, I just want to give the people of this city a new comfort," Peter slowly said in a hoarse, deliberately concealed voice. "Can you hear it? This is a city that will never be at peace. Under the steel and concrete is a deep and rapid breath. Gotham City is as always full of failures, setbacks and chaos. People on the street have all kinds of questions. Some people are excited about the opportunities presented by Batman's departure. Some people are hesitant about the opportunities in front of them because of his absence, and some people find the determination to embark on the road of redemption from his sacrifice," he said with a complicated expression. "Some people reluctantly took over the cape to fill the gap left by his death. They tried to find answers and the pulse of life, because Gotham has lost his heart, and I am trying to give this city a heart." Peter's words immediately stunned Stephanie. "Who are you?" Before Peter could answer, applause sounded. In the shut eyes of Stephanie and the fallen Nightwalker, a figure slowly walked out clapping. Azu clapped his hands and walked out of the shadows. "Well said, it sounds like you have become the real Batman protecting this city." Azu had a fake smile on his face. Unfortunately, fake is fake. Chapter 815, Azu's Mouth Cannon. "I am also a college student." Azu's perspective eyes immediately saw through the other person's true face behind the mask. After receiving a notice from Harvey who was attending the banquet, he immediately rushed to the scene, but he didn't expect to meet the guy pretending to be his father here. What he didn't expect was that this guy turned out to be Horace. He thought the other person was either Loki or Raven. He never expected that this guy was Horace. Horace was the last to come, but he was the most creative. When he was a child, he didn't dare to use his father's name to be a superhero in Metropolis. He didn't expect this kid to be so bold and borrow his father's identity to be a superhero in Gotham. "Wu Ming, I didn't expect you to have such a high level of awareness and want to become the new Batman." Azu hugged his shoulders and said to him, "If Dad knew you had this idea, he would be very happy." Azu habitually smirked, and seeing Horace fall into silence, he continued, "Don't you want to say hello to me? I'm your eldest brother, and we are family." At this time, Peter, that is, Horace, raised his head and looked at Azu who was smirking. He didn't expect to meet Azu so soon. At least in his plan, the two would never meet so soon. "Big brother," Horace hesitated for a moment, facing Azu, bowed his head slightly, and saluted Azu with his hand on his chest. Horace has always been respectful to his father and other brothers and sisters. He loves his father deeply and has a deep affection for his other brothers and sisters, especially after experiencing the things in the world of injustice. In his bones, Horace now has a more upright character than Mark. Mal occasionally has some small ideas. Now Horace has no selfishness and has been working hard to make the farm and his father great. And he often reflects on himself and worries every day about what he has not done well. For example, whether he has united and loved other family members, and whether he has listened to his father's requirements and worked hard to do things well. So now facing Azu, Horace has a very respectful attitude. Horace's performance made Azu not know what to say. If it were Loki or Raven, Tom, Clark, he would have taken action to deal with these brothers. Stephanie and Nightwalker, who were standing by, were also stunned when they saw the eldest brother of Peter Patrick suddenly appear. This superhero who suddenly appeared has a brother. Very good, Wu Ming, it seems that you are sensible enough. I will explain it to my father, but now, I want you to propose this battle, Azu made his request. With a smile on his face, he said, "Just like Batman, I will control the entire city, and you will be my Robin." Or, he walked to Horace step by step, "Give me the mask, let me be Peter Patrick, because only I can inherit my father's name." Azu said that only he could inherit the name Peter Patrick. "Because I am the eldest son of the farm, it is natural for me to inherit my father's name, just like Batman's cape. I will take away my father's cape mask." Azu stretched out his hand to Horace with a serious expression. Faced with Azu's request, Horace hesitated. He did respect Azu, but it did not mean that he was willing to withdraw directly. It did not mean that he would hand over the mask. No, Horace raised his head and looked directly into Zu's eyes. What? Zu was stunned, looking at Horace, who rejected him directly. This kid dared to reject him? You should understand, Wu Ming, if I want to, I can end this war overnight. Zu took a deep breath and pointed his finger at himself. I am the greatest superhero in this world besides my father. As long as I want, no one can be my opponent, Zu boasted habitually, completely forgetting the fact that he was beaten up by Raven, Clark, Brainiac and Injustice Superman before. I am the boss. Now, Wu Ming, hand over the mask. Now you are not qualified to use your father's name. Zu's expression at this time became a bit like Zu in Black Robe. The aura exuded by the other party made Stephanie and Nightwalker beside him tremble. It felt like this guy was about to tear people apart in the next moment, giving people a chilling temperament. Facing Zu's threat, Horace's expression remained calm, without much change. No, because I think what I insist on is not wrong. I think Emperor Father will support me in doing so. I am trying to make this city a better place. Better, Azu sneered. Don't be like that idiot Batman, who is determined to save Gotham, because this city has entered a hopeless stage, economic decline, crime everywhere, high corruption in the administrative system, and citizens have lost hope. What is going on here is essentially a story of a snake biting itself. The fighters of evil are precisely the root creators of evil, Azu said coldly. Batman just catches criminals again and again and puts them in mental hospitals, then these powerful criminals escape again and again, continuing to cause damage and casualties outside. Sometimes you can't even figure out which side Batman is on. Violence and fear, this seemingly most radical way, is actually more conservative than the reformism of his father Thomas Wayne. Azupi City University did not go to in vain, and he kept firing a barrage of words at Horace. So, don't try to be a savior, Wu Ming, because you are not a god. Just like Piltover and Zon, this complex environment, the hatred formed by generations, do you think a few masked superheroes can solve it? Hearing Azu's words, Horace was slightly stunned. He didn't expect Azu to have such an understanding. But, he paused and said to Azu, what Dad wants us to do is to become the kind of people who light the fire, right? Hearing Horace's words, Azu was stunned on the spot, and a storm was set off in his heart. Horace's words hit his heart hard. But soon he became angry. I still need you, the youngest, to teach me a lesson? Azu's eyes flashed red, and he said to Horace with a slight bite of his teeth, very good, since you are unwilling to leave the field, then I have to do it. Azu didn't say any more nonsense, and his thermal vision suddenly shut out. Facing Azu's thermal vision attack, Horace dodged and flew into the sky. In order to prevent the fight between the two from affecting nearby people, he took the initiative to stay away from the ground. Although Horace did not wear power armor this time, after absorbing Brainiac's knowledge, the uniform he developed was no less powerful than the power armor. Boom! The anti-gravity engine behind Horace spewed out more a black gold tail flame and flew quickly into the sky. Seeing Horace fleeing, Zu started to rush at super speed with a boom. But when he hit the sky, Horace turned around and grabbed Zu's ankle and slammed it into the spire of an unmanned building under construction in the distance. Boom! The impact of several tons made the building vibrate like a struck tuning fork. Enduring the pain, Zu turned over and grabbed the lightning rod, forcibly pulled out the entire steel beam, and stabbed it into the throat of the opponent who was rushing over. The sparks from the collision between the power claw and the steel beam ignited the clouds. Horace's left arm ejected the entropy shield transformed by Brainiac's mother box, refracting the second wave of heat vision into scattered beams. Molten iron rained down over Gotham in an instant. The next second, a dull crash sounded. Homelander crashed into Horace's arms, trying to grab Horace and fall to the ground. Horace immediately released a swarm of nano-arms to engulf Zu's right arm, temporarily freezing his cells. Bang! But Zu's elbow joint hit Horace backhanded before it could freeze. In the distance, Nightwalker and Stephanie looked at everything in front of them and fell into a daze. What kind of pervert is this? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 816, Azu's Exit. I was careless. This level of battle, let alone wanting to become Gotham's superheroes, they even seemed to be able to rule Gotham. Stephanie was immediately stunned. Who on earth is this Peter Patrick? The night walker next to them was also shocked when she saw the two fighting. Are these two guys monsters? On the other side, Azu and Horace have entered the Ace chemical plant. After the two collided with each other, with a bang, the two rolled in the rusty pipe gallery with a muffled sound. The gravity anchor on Horace's back suddenly started, directing the uncontrolled impact force to the empty chlorine storage warehouse in the factory. The roar of the dented iron tank replaced the sound of glass breaking on the street. Is that all you can do? Horace, is this all Dad taught you? Azu stood up, wiped off the dust on his body, and said to Horace contemptuously. He didn't really fight now, and didn't even take out his weapon, the trident. Just a little effort. Horace couldn't stand it. Without waiting for Horace to answer, the next second, his thermal vision brushed past Horace's ear and hit the spire of the Gotham Cathedral in the distance. That name is not something you can inherit, never. Azu continued to stride forward, and the thermal vision rushed out violently. Facing Azu's attack, Horace immediately activated the defense function of his uniform. Metal particles weaved into a mirror shield, refracting the scarlet beam into the clouds. I can open up the path of the farm and the Emperor Father. After Horace dodged the thermal vision, he held the power claw and said with a serious expression, words from the old heroic age, when life was as cheap as dust, measured by noble things, honor, faith, trust. These are what my father taught me. I perfectly inherit, and naturally I can inherit his name. Horace's words were full of decisiveness. Although he respected other brothers and sisters, he also wanted to fight for the right to speak in the family. This is not only the right to speak, but also a battle for everyone's root. He can make the farm and the Emperor Father great, and make mankind great. Since he has such a belief, why is he unwilling to fight for the right to speak? Besides, Horace thought he was not the kind of coward who would not fight. Then you should leave. Crash. The next second, Azu kicked the fire escape and jumped up. Facing Azu's attack, Horace immediately dodged backwards. When Azu chased him, he smashed part of the chemical plant's buildings. The falling concrete block was captured by the gravity net that popped out of Horace's left arm and then thrown to a safe place. There were homeless people living outside the chemical plant. In order to prevent innocent homeless people from being attacked, Horace captured the falling concrete block. But this action exposed a flaw in his left ribs, and Azu's knee hit Horace's abdomen accurately. In severe pain, blood flowed out of Horace's mouth, and a psychic shock wave burst out instantly. With a bang, he heavily knocked the stunned Azu back. Azu, who fell to the ground, was a little angry. He didn't expect that Horace, as the youngest guy, would be so difficult. Azu stood up and rushed towards him with a roar, almost overturning the whole street with his momentum. A nearby fire hydrant exploded, and water mist sprayed out instantly. Facing Azu's attack, Horace immediately adjusted the panel on his right arm. The phase shifter lit up on the panel, and instantly condensed the water mist within a radius of 100 meters into a cage of charged particles. The phase shifter can lock the space and change its inherent properties, making it impossible for the enemy trapped in the space to change its phase, thereby controlling the person. He used the technology obtained from Brainiac to deal with Azu. Azu bumped around in the static cage, but he could not get out of the cage made by Horace. Azu, whose temper became more and more irritable, shot out heat vision from his eyes to tear open the cage. Phase control instantly failed. He got out and swept his heat vision to Horace's feet. Seeing Azu break free from his phase shifter, Horace's pupils contracted, and the power claws sprayed energy to forcibly change the trajectory of the beam. The two energies collided in the troposphere, making a deafening explosion. Then the two of them tangled and crashed into the interior of the evolution plant. Azu gritted his teeth and punched through Horace's phantom with his real fist. Horace, who showed his true form, suddenly appeared behind Azu. He raised his arm, but this time his power claws did not attack. As he moved, a piercing sound came from the device in his body. Caught off guard, Azu's eardrums were pierced by a frequency that made him feel painful. Azu, who was hit by the ultrasonic frequency, immediately covered his ears and stepped back, with a painful expression on his face. Being attacked by this frequency of sound waves, Azu instantly became uncomfortable all over and staggered to hold on to the wall. Horace, who used ultrasonic waves to attack Azu's eardrums, then raised his lightning power claw to release a shock wave. Boom! The sharp silver blade claws released the energy bullets of the bolter, instantly knocking Azu out. Holding the power claws, Horus walked to Azu, who was lying on the ground and groaning in pain. "Sorry, brother, who of us is on the right path? I think the Emperor will tell us later, but for now, I have one for now." Azu, holding his chest, looked at Horus, who was wearing a mask and making a victory declaration, and felt a little regretful. He should have used the trident directly at the beginning, otherwise he would not have been tricked by this kid. "What do you want to do? I'm your big brother. Do you want to rebel?" Azu stared at him and asked. "No, you are the big brother, of course I won't do anything to you." Horus shook his head and said, "But now, according to the rules, I have won." Although the means were a little dishonorable, he won after all. Horus said to the indignant Azu, "Thank you big brother for letting me." "Azu, don't eat the sour radish." He was tricked by the youngest. And the other party said this. It was obvious that he was using words to block him. At the same time, Wayne Manor. Nightwing, also known as Raven, was standing on the top of the mountain looking at Smallville. The scenery was breathtaking, misty valleys, vast forests, and endless fields that plunged into an endless sea of green. But above it all, she remembered the sky was so vast that it seemed endless. She might have climbed every mountain on Earth, even those white peaks clad in rock. But nothing could compare to standing here, looking out over her homeland. She remembered the air she had tasted, the cool scent of pine, the damp heat of wild animals, the tangled spikes of gorse bushes. Then the picture shifted. From the endless sky to the woods of Highland firs. She found herself in the woods near Padraic's farm. The trees were so dense that she could only see the shadows of the sunset between the prune trunks. A mighty stag was grazing at the edge of the tree line. The sheer magnificence of the stag took her breath away. Its auburn fur shone golden in the sunset, and its antlers branched upward like bony lightning bolts. "This is the Lord of the Valley, and it will lead the way as the wild hunt thunders over the hills." Watching all this, Raven held her breath, afraid that even the slightest movement would break the spell. The stag raised its head, its nostrils twitching now. The animal met her gaze, and she saw soul. Then, as she watched, a terrible roar echoed from the depths of the forest, the cry of wolves. Other wolves joined in, first dozens of packs, then hundreds. The stag turned and fled, its powerful limbs carrying it up the mountain, over rocks, and along dangerous paths. A black-furred wolf ran out of the woods, its eyes red and wild. The wolves followed, red wolves, gray wolves, and molting wolves. They followed the stag, driving it to the cliffs where the rest of the pack was waiting. "No. No. Run," Raven shouted at the fleeing animal. She wanted to warn the stag that she was walking into a trap. But the next second, the stag stood up and turned into Peter's appearance. "What about you? If it was you, Raven, you were driven by the wolves, knowing there was a trap, would you still go to the dangerous path, Dad?" Raven woke up with a shout. She blinked and breathed quickly. The scene of the stag escaping into the mountains gradually faded. There was darkness above her head, and the lumen lights in the creaking corridor in the distance were emitting a dim light. Knock. 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 Then there was a knock on the door, and Alfred's voice came in. "Master Dick," Tim's friend Mark called and said that the Huntress and Way might also be captured. Hearing the news from Alfred, Raven immediately stood up. She was now playing the role of Nightwing. Although she heard that Way was captured, she still forced herself to suppress her excitement. Opening the door, she asked Alfred, "Did Jason take them away?" "Yes, they said it was most likely Jason who did it, and he should have helpers." Helpers? Hearing Alfred say this, Nightwing frowned. He walked to the main control computer and contacted Barbara. "Oracle, is there any news about Jason's base? I need to find Jason Todd immediately." Barbara's message came. "Yes, I found a suspicious place. You can go to the scene to check. I suspect it may be Jason's temporary base. Of course, it may also be a trap. Even if it is a trap, I have to go, because I am a stag driven by wolves. What I can do now is to use my strong limbs to carry it up the mountain, over the rocks, and along the dangerous path." What? Hearing such a wonderful metaphor from Nightwing, Barbara was stunned. Chapter 817 My sister is gone? Raven lost his mind. Nothing. Nightwing shook his head and threw these strange thoughts out of his mind. "Oracle, send me the address. I'll rush over right away." Nightwing asked Barbara to send him the address, and then he went to rescue people. "Are you sure? Maybe you should notify Tim's two friends, I mean Mark and Boom. They should be called this name, Am I right? Probably not, Nightwing said to Barbara in the communicator, but I don't need their help, just send me the address. Now she is Nightwing, and it is naturally no problem to deal with Jason Todd. As for taking Mark and Boom, she would not do such a thing. Now the few of them are still in a competitive relationship. She did not regard these two as competitors, and she sent the other party to the end of the game in advance. It was because of her sister that she gave them a break for their father. Half an hour later, Nightwing went into the underground of Gotham's Nay Island area alone. Following the underground waterway of Gotham, she gradually went deeper into the underground of Gotham. In the communicator, Barbara's voice was intermittent. Go down. Zzzz. A little more, about 20 yards. Zzzz. Okay, the communication is about to be cut off, we'll talk later. Seeing that Barbara's communication could not be transmitted, Nightwing could only temporarily end the conversation with the other party. Goodbye, Oracle, now there is only me and the endless darkness. Nightwing looked at the tunnel leading to the depths of the underground sewer and complained helplessly. Walking forward along the dark tunnel, she soon came to a wide underground space. There seemed to be traces of human existence in the underground space, and Nightwing found some footprints below. As she continued to go down, she found that the moss on the top of the sewer was drooping like a cancerous lung lobe. The beetle shell crushed by the sole of the boot made a crisp sound like a micro-glass vessel breaking. A few minutes later, she stopped at the fork in the road and wiped her fingers over the rusty iron pipe. After judging that the human breath in that direction was more obvious, she chose to go to the right. As she continued to go deeper, Nightwing soon found herself in a wide underground world. The battle map was nailed to the wall, but those coordinates should be the previous data that has not been updated yet. Looking at the surrounding environment, Nightwing soon found a figure. Batman's figure was tied to a cross, and he was unconscious with his head lowered. Tim, she immediately recognized that the person tied to the cross was Tim pretending to be Batman. No, that's not right, that's just Tim's Batman uniform and cape, not his real person. This should be Jason's temporary base. But why are Tim, Huntress and V not here? Nightwing immediately fell into deep thought. Just as she was thinking about the whereabouts of Huntress and V, a voice came from above. I have to make it clear to you, Nightwing, I was acting in self-defense. He broke into my home and beat me with a crowbar. Jason, who was standing on a high platform, was wearing Batman's uniform and a metal mask on his face. He said to her, fortunately, I was prepared, otherwise you should be mourning for me now. Raven, dressed as Nightwing, raised her head and glared at Jason on the high platform. Jason, you may be a murderer, and now it seems that you have finally lost the last bit of your sanity. Lost your sanity. Jason looked at Nightwing below and said coldly, you are stupid and mad. While Gotham City is in flames, you come here to take back Batman's tattered cape. He shook his head at Nightwing in disappointment. Do you know who is the mastermind behind this? Do you have even a little clue? Think about who drove Two-Face and Penguin out, and think about who is the mastermind behind this. Hearing Jason mention the mastermind behind this, Nightwing hesitated for a moment. Did the other party know something? Forget it, it doesn't matter to you anyway, because you will fail soon. Jason took out his gun and pointed it at Nightwing. I once asked him a question, and his answer was very manly. Although he knew what would happen if he refused me, I think it would be better if you could accept my proposal. After all, you are the first generation of Robin, Jason said to her, that is, be my assistant, be my Robin. Hearing the other party ask her to be his Robin, Nightwing was slightly stunned. Then she felt a little ridiculous and said, sorry, I can only be the Robin of one person, that is my father. Apart from that, no one can make me his Robin. But Jason, you are the one who looks like you need help now. Jason thought that the father that Nightwing was talking about was Batman, so he snorted coldly, you are the one who needs help, Dick, you and Gotham are the ones who need help, and I will be your savior. Seeing the other party say this, Nightwing stopped talking nonsense with him. Whoosh, she jumped in front of the other party. Nightwing's speed caught Jason off guard and he was hit hard. Bang! Jason, who was punched in the chin, retreated with blood flowing out of his mouth. Jason stepped back in pain. As soon as his heel stepped on the rusty fire escape, Nightwing's elbow strike split the humid air and whistled. Jason leaned back to avoid the fatal blow, and the back of his head almost brushed against the steam pipe dripping with condensed water. Seeing that the opponent had dodged, Nightwing took the opportunity to knee the opponent in the ribs. When Jason blocked, the leather arm guard and tactical pants rubbed against each other, making a short hissing sound, but the huge force from Nightwing made him unable to resist. With a bang, Jason fell to the ground with a thump. I'll ask you one last time, Tim, where are the Huntress and V? Tim, V, Huntress? Haha, do you want to find them? Jason smiled and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Why do you care so much about them? You obviously don't know that girl named V, just tell me where they are. Nightwing looked down at him and said. Jason did not answer immediately, but looked into Nightwing's eyes and said, let's talk business. Business. Nightwing shook his head and took out a player from his arms. Here's the business. As she pressed the player button, a virtual image appeared in the air. The figure that suddenly appeared was Bruce Wayne in casual clothes. Looking at Bruce Wayne in the image, Jason, who was lying on the ground, was stunned. Jason, when you see this you should have known about my death, and you may still be wondering why you were invited back to the Batcave, but like Tim and Nick, I have one last advice for you. Jason on the ground listened to Bruce talking in the image, and said to Nightwing in a panic, shut up. I've had enough of his rhetoric. Nightwing glared at him, shut up. This time you have to listen to me obediently, the Batman in the image continued to say to Jason with a serious expression, of all the mistakes I have made in my life, you are the biggest one, and I am fully responsible for your capricious path of self-destruction. Your heart has long been broken, but I thought I could glue the pieces together again. I thought I could do for you what I could never do myself and fill the gap in your heart. Listening to Bruce Wayne's words, Jason became more and more painful, and he yelled at Nightwing, I said turn it off. Turn it off. Although he wanted to turn it off, the image was still playing and Bruce's words continued. Your childhood experiences, pains, and fears are a secret that none of us should keep. What you need is spiritual healing, but what I provided was a way to vent. For this, I want to apologize to you, but it's not too late for you to receive the treatment you deserve but never received. I can still make up for it and help you get rid of this state. It's time to stop what you are doing. Alfred knows a very good psychologist. Before Bruce in the image finished speaking, Jason, who was lying on the ground, roared and shot the dagger in his hand at Bruce in the image. The dagger penetrated Bruce's image and shot to the ground. He stood up and released the Scarecrow's fear gas towards Nightwing. Nightwing, who didn't expect Jason's move, was instantly surrounded by green fear gas. Jason suddenly grabbed the steam valve above his head, and high-temperature white mist gushed out. Nightwing slowed down at the moment of vision obstruction. She barely turned around and kicked out a half-moon sweep with her long legs. Gritting his teeth, the angry and painful Red Hood had already circled behind her, trying to strangle her neck. Enduring the discomfort caused by the invasion of the fear gas, Nightwing's Adam's apple was pressed by his elbow, and he suddenly bent forward and used his weight to throw Jason towards the flooded distribution box. When the two fell into the sewage pool, Jason kicked the other's temple with his boots. Nightwing turned his head to avoid it, and the cable in the muddy water wrapped around his wrist, but it became a leverage. Then she quickly pulled the cable and swung up, using her agile body to instantly knock Jason out. Take me to CV and the Huntress. Jason. Nightwing looked at Jason who was knocked out by him, panting slightly and asked, tell me, where are they? They were already dead. Jason wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said to him. Hearing Jason say that V was dead, Nightwing's eyes instantly turned red. Anger swallowed her reason in an instant. Her sister died like this. No. No. Impossible, you're lying. The angry Nightwing instantly moved in front of Jason and punched him in the chest. Immersed in anger, Nightwing rode on Jason and punched him, each punch aimed at his vital points, the jaw triangle area, the heart, and the liver. Chapter 818, Bayo Bayo vs. Tom, you little Voldemort, go to hell. How dare you hurt my sister, Nightwing roared, charging at Jason with all his fists. When Nightwing's knuckles hit Jason's rib for the third time, a whine of bone fracture sounded. Jason's vomited gastric juice splashed on the steam valve, and the sizzling white smoke blurred the figures of the two. Nightwing, overwhelmed by anger and pain, then kneed him. The opponent dodged, brushed past Jason's waist, and then Nightwing punched him into the water-soaked brick wall. As the brick dust fell, Nightwing's pursuit had arrived. A left hook to the abdomen forced Jason to bend over, a right elbow to the jaw, followed by a rain of fists. Bang! 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 Jason was hit by a riven and finally slid down with his back against the wall. Blood foam flowed from the inside of the tactical mask. The angry Nightwing's leg chopped down like a battle axe, but turned at the last centimeter, and the heel of the boot stomped into the crack of the brick near Jason's ear. In the flying debris, Her thumb pressed the carotid artery of the Red Hood. How dare you hurt her? Raven grabbed the opponent's neck and was about to continue to attack, but she was stunned when she felt the opponent's pulse. Looking at Jason, who kept coughing up blood, Raven gradually calmed down. He was lying. Jason Todd's pulse would not lie. When he said that V was dead, his pulse beat very violently. The opponent's subtle body dynamics showed that he was lying. V must be fine. Raven, who had calmed down a little, grabbed the opponent. It's over, tell me, where's V? Jason, with blood all over his face, smiled at Raven reluctantly. You're right, Dick, it's over. Then, in Raven's astonished eyes, Jason took out a button switch. Click, the button switch was pressed by him in an instant. Boom, on the other side. Located 2,000 feet underground in Gotham, Boom and Mark also rushed here after receiving the message from the Oracle Barbara. Because of the loss of signal, Barbara, who was worried about the safety of Nightwing, notified Boom and Mark in time. After entering the underground world, the two used flashlights to look for traces of V and Helena. Can't you just shut up for a while, Mark? V said to Mark a little irritably. Mark has been talking since just now. I just want to be quiet. Boom, wearing a hood, used a flashlight to illuminate the dark road ahead, and said to Mark, don't chatter in my ear like a girl, okay? Seeing Boom say this, Mark was also a little melancholy. Sure enough, he and Boom have nothing in common. It would be great if Harry and Hermione were here. Look, there's a boat below, standing on a protruding rock. Boom shone the flashlight on the underground river below. A small boat suddenly appeared at the edge of the underground river. Mark, let's go down. It's better to take a boat than to walk, Mark said cautiously. I think we should check to see if there's anyone nearby. Do you understand? Before he finished speaking, Boom jumped down. Mark had no choice but to follow him. You should listen to me, Boom. Sitting on the boat, Mark used the Loomis spell to illuminate the darkness ahead and said to Boom. Boom pouted and said, why are you the boss and you get to be Batman, and I can only be Robin? Just because you are older than me? I just came to the farm a few years later than you, based on my GPS. Mark took out the GPS and said to Boom, who was dissatisfied. Oracle marked the last communication location on it. So now I am the boss, the blue-haired Robin Bird. Boom. Boom was a little unhappy and snatched the GPS away. You are not Batman, only Dad can be Batman, we can only be Robin. After snatching the GPS, the two continued to drive the boat forward and soon came to an empty room. There was a cross in the room, and Tim, who was injured and bleeding from the corner of his mouth, was tied to it. On the other side, Wei and Helena were facing each other with their hands tied together. The two tried desperately to break free, but they could not untie the ropes. Wei looked up and saw Bao and Mark rushing over, and suddenly became excited. Bao. Mark, Bao finally found her sister. She walked over quickly and hugged Wei. Great, I finally found you, Wei. The two sisters who reunited were so excited that they could not hide their emotions and hugged each other tightly. Bao's voice became a little choked. Don't leave me in the future. Wei, no, I won't leave you, Bao. On the other side, Mark walked to the injured and untied the rope for him, and supported Tim, who was about to fall down due to exhaustion. Are you okay, Tim? Yes, I'm a lucky guy. The rusty old bat dart broke when it pierced Bruce's reinforced Kevlar tights. Tim forced a smile at Mark. A few shallow wounds are better than one deep one. The sudden blood loss made me faint. Later, Jason didn't choose to kill me. That means that guy is just a tough guy with a soft heart. Even though he said harsh words, Mark shrugged his shoulders and said to him, no, you're wrong. It's just because I need him. Suddenly, a voice came from behind them. Mark wanted to turn around when he heard the voice, but he was hit by a spell energy in an instant, and then his body fell to the ground uncontrollably. He wanted to stand up with a dazed consciousness, but he couldn't do it. He could only vaguely perceive the outside world, but couldn't move. In the shut eyes of Bomb, Helena and Wei, a black cat jumped in, and then turned into Batman wearing a metal mask in the incredible eyes of several people. Boom looked at the other party in shock. How did Black Cat become Batman? It's animagus magic. He's not Jason Todd. He's Tom, the Tide Wei said to Boom in a hurry. Tom, hearing Wei say that the other party was Tom, Boom was immediately stunned. Tom became Batman. Hello, Boom. Tom, wearing a bat mask, took off the bat mask and took the initiative to greet Boom. It's you. You kidnapped Wei, Helena and Tim. No, Tim's current situation has nothing to do with me. It was Jason Todd's personal behavior. In addition, I didn't kidnap Wei. You are all my sisters. Of course, I won't hurt you, Tom, who had a handsome face and a slightly dark aura, slowly said. It's just that according to the rules of the game, one of us must win in order to go back. I like to win and don't like to taste the taste of failure, so this is the only way. Boom immediately understood that the other party was going to use Wei to lure him and Mark over, and then catch them all in one fell swoop. Furious, Boom immediately pulled out his boom gun and pointed it at the other party. She didn't expect that Tom, who looked handsome and polite, would be so insidious. So you've always wanted to attack us? Tom, you've always been pretending in front of your father. You look handsome, have good grades, behave modestly and politely, and easily win everyone's favor. But you're actually a despicable guy, Boom said angrily, while his fingers touched the electromagnetic pulse grenade on his waist. Seeing Boom's action, Tom also drew out his wand instantly. God of Strikes, the moment the green beam tore through the night, Boom's right leg and riveted boots retreated violently. At the same time, the hex core around her neck suddenly lit up, and the whole person moved sideways as if being pulled by an invisible thread. The spell energy brushed her hair and sank into the wall behind her, and the concrete wall immediately fell into dust. Go to hell, little Voldemort, I'll give you a taste of Zoan's special electromagnetic overload. Boom Boom cursed and threw out 3 sizzling spherical devices. The spherical devices instantly unfolded into a triangular formation in the air. Facing Boom Boom's attack, Tom narrowed his gray eyes and drew a complex silver trajectory with his wand. When the blue arc was about to touch his figure, a translucent magic shield suddenly condensed in the air. Boom! The magic shield and the explosive collided with each other, making a deafening sound. The entire space began to fall dust and debris under the impact of this energy. Wei quickly reached out to block the falling debris for Helena. Seeing Tom blocking his attack, Boom Boom took the opportunity to rush over, with a blue tail flame spurting out from the sole of his boots, and fired 3 shots from the bang bang gun in his hand at the oily water below. The moment the bullet penetrated the oil film, the flame instantly attacked Tom. Facing the flame attack, Tom's clear water spell was already in place. But the magic energy mixed in the water fueled the flames, and the flames soared into the air, sweeping the space where Tom was standing. Tom used the shield spell to block the attack, and summoned several black giant snakes in his backhand, which instantly swept towards Boom. Facing the siege of the giant snakes, Boom fired while twisting and turning in the siege of the giant snakes. Soon her body stagnated. Boom, who was a little surprised, found that several vines had grown under her feet and wrapped around her ankles. With a bang, Boom was pulled to the ground. Boom, gritting his teeth, was about to use the bang bang gun to smash the vines. Boom, a deafening sound came from a distance. The huge explosion seemed to sweep the entire space. The entire ground began to shake violently, countless rubble collapsed from the top, and the ground began to collapse downwards. Tom, who was shocked, looked into the distance. He knew that Jason Todd was fighting with Nightwing. What happened between the two of them that caused the entire underground space to collapse? Seeing that the place was about to collapse, Tom immediately untied the vines wrapped around Boom, and immediately cast the armor spell on Boom, Wei and Helena. The sudden change also shocked Boom. Catch them, and get out of here quickly. Boom, Tom rushed over, grabbed the weak Wei with one hand and Helena with the other, and shouted to Boom. Boom reacted and immediately moved to Mark and Tim, grabbed their arms, and used the power provided by the sea technology to fly upwards. Chapter 819 Jason's Death, Riven's Enlightenment. On the other side. Swoosh, Jason, who fired a hook gun, took himself away from the spot at the moment of the explosion. As he pressed the button of the bomb scattered throughout the underground world, the explosion quickly swept in. Flames and smoke spread rapidly, and the ground began to gradually collapse. Damn it, Nightwing cursed inwardly, not expecting this guy to be so crazy. He immediately fired the hook gun in his hand and flew out. Crash, the 2 people who left the collapsed tunnel in the underground space chased all the way. Nightwing quickly chased the injured Jason to the tunnel. There was a boom sound in the distance, and the train was speeding. Boom, Jason fired the hook gun and shot at the speeding subway. Using the hook gun to pull himself to the train, Jason pulled his body to the top of the train. Nightwing followed closely and chased the other party to jump onto the train. With a bang, the moment he jumped onto the train, Jason's bat dart came in response. After dodging the bat dart, Nightwing asked the other party, How do you want it to end, Jason? It should end with me becoming Batman. You're dreaming. Oh, really? A so-called superhero who caused Robin's death and watched his beloved city fall into the disaster created by those supervillains and was powerless. Do you have the right to tell me that? I may have failed tonight, but you, what are you doing, Dick? Jason wiped the blood left behind by the mask and said to Nightwing in a harsh voice, let me tell you, you hid in Bruce's shadow, unable to move because of fear of failure, but you have already failed. Facing Jason's accusation, Raven, disguised as Nightwing, did not have any psychological fluctuations. With a whoosh, she quickly moved in front of the other party and punched again. The sharp fist hit the other party again. Intense pain attacked Jason, and on the speeding train, Jason was hit back heavily. Since you don't want to end it, and you don't want to tell us the whereabouts of Way, Huntress, and Tim, then, let me end you once and for all. Nightwing didn't hold back and punched Jason, who stood up, knocking him down again. Jason slid down the slope of the roof to the edge. At the critical moment, his grappling hook caught the signal light bracket in time, so he didn't fall down. The moment the train rushed out of the tunnel, heavy rain poured down. Jason swung into the cab by inertia. The sparks produced by the friction between the wheels and the rails were like a meteor shower in reverse. When Nightwing smashed the windshield and rushed in, Jason grabbed the metal box at hand and smashed it at him. Bang! Nightwing turned around and kicked away the flying metal fragments, one of which cut her mask strap. Seeing that he was no match for Nightwing, Jason quickly escaped from the cab in the violent turbulence. Escaping from the subway, Jason landed on the freight platform full of wooden boxes where the train passed. The cold light of the river searchlight shone through the gap of the container. The moment Jason jumped over, his back hit the refrigerated container hard, and he groaned in pain. When Nightwing chased him, he heard the hissing sound of liquid nitrogen leaking. He just turned over to avoid the gushing white cold current, and Jason's bomb exploded above his head. Facing Jason's attack, Raven, disguised as Nightwing, inserted 2 sticks into the seams of the steel plates, and hung on the edge of the platform to avoid the impact of the explosion. Temporarily repelling Nightwing, Jason covered his wounds and swung up to the mast. Amid the roar of the freighter's horn, Jason jumped onto the rooftop of a nearby high-rise building. At this time, Jason, who was seriously injured, had gradually felt a dizziness. Facing the chasing Nightwing, he finally couldn't hold on. With a dull bang, he was punched and fell from the rooftop. Under the building was the dark waves of the sea. Once he fell into the sea, he would probably be buried in the belly of a fish. Seeing Jason about to fall, Nightwing immediately flew over and grabbed his hand. Although she fought with Jason, her purpose was not to kill him. Although she was blinded by anger at first and thought Jason killed Way, after reacting, Raven calmed down. Grab my hand. At the edge of the rooftop, Nightwing grabbed Jason, whose whole body was hanging outside, and said to him, I'll pull you up. At this time, Raven's mask strap was cut, causing the mask to slide directly off her face. Snap! The mask fell from her face and fell directly into the sea. Jason, whose hand was grabbed by Nightwing, looked at Raven's disguised face and was stunned. Although Raven's disguised face was almost the same as Dick, Jason still saw that this face did not belong to Dick. You are not Dick. Who are you? What? Raven grabbed his hand and was slightly stunned. I am Dick Grayson. Jason, who was holding Raven's hand, showed a relieved smile at the corner of his mouth. It doesn't matter anymore, we will meet again, goodbye. Nightwing. Or, stranger. As soon as the voice fell, Jason pried open Raven's fingers and let himself fall into the sea. No, Raven stood up and was about to release magic to catch him. Crack a thunder sounded, and Raven saw Jason falling at a high speed with the help of lightning, and a relieved smile appeared on his face. Stunned Raven didn't have time to catch him, and with a plop, Jason fell into the sea and disappeared in an instant. Standing on the edge of the rooftop, Raven looked down at Jason, who disappeared into the sea, letting the rain fall on her head. She was silent for a long time with complicated emotions. The other party's final resolute choice to end his life made her heart unable to calm down. In the heavy rain, Raven, who was in a trance, turned around with a heavy heart. Jason's death gave her a great shock. In a trance, she seemed to see her father standing beside her. Dad, I don't understand why it ended like this. Peter reached out to the somewhat painful Raven and touched her hair. This is normal, Raven. Some people just don't want to be saved, because saving means changing. Peter stroked Raven's hair. And changing is always harder than not changing. This requires the courage to re-examine yourself and the courage to reflect on your own behavior. Listening to Peter's words, Raven raised her head suddenly and found that Peter in front of her did not exist at all. At this time, only the rain fell and touched her hair. Her father was not here. What she was talking to was actually her own heart. Her father had told her before that changing herself was indeed a difficult thing. People trapped in past experiences would have trauma in their hearts. But it was precisely because of those experiences that she had the courage to embrace her talent and change her destiny. Raven suddenly understood the meaning of Batman in this city. She also understood why Batman would protect this city in his unique way. She used to dislike Batman for being a bit old-fashioned, but now she felt that Batman was indeed doing something that was not old-fashioned. After being trapped in the memory of the past, Bruce Wayne did not choose to sink and accept the arrangement of fate, but had the courage to embrace his talent and change his fate. Perhaps, this is also the character that his father hopes he will have? Shaking her head, Raven turned and left. On the other side, Tom rescued the group before the underground world collapsed. Boom put Mark and Tim, whom she brought out, on the ground, breathing heavily. Bringing these two people up wasted a lot of her energy. Just when she wanted to take a break, something strange happened. Before she could react, Tom pulled out his wand and released a magic energy rope at lightning speed. Boom, who was unable to react, was tied up all of a sudden. Little Voldemort, Boom glared at Tom, who had no expression on his face. I knew I shouldn't trust you. She regretted not being on guard against Tom. Just now, she thought Tom rescued Helena and Wei, and thought he suddenly changed his character, but she didn't expect that this guy was still thinking about plotting against her all the time. Sorry, Bomb, Wei, and Mark, you are out. According to the rules, you have lost your fighting power in my hands, which means I have won. Tom put away his wand and said to the two indignant people, also, I forgot to inform you just now that I have received the news that Zoo is out. You guy, have you always been so despicable? Bomb looked at him angrily. I have to tell my dad about the bad things you did, bad guy. Tom didn't take Bomb's verbal attack seriously. I am neither as cruel, arrogant, brutal and arrogant as Zoo, nor as gloomy and indifferent as Raven, and I have no positive emotions. How can I be called a bad guy? I don't think so. Suddenly, a voice came from behind the few people. Hearing this familiar voice, Tom turned around with a shudder in his heart. As a result, the moment he turned around, a powerful dark magic energy hit Tom's back heavily. Tom thought everything was over, but he didn't expect someone to appear behind him silently. Tom, who didn't react in time, was knocked out with a bang. You're out now, Tom Patrick. Tom rolled along the ground and raised his head with difficulty. He saw Nightwing walking towards him with a mask on. Nightwing? Tom never expected that the one who attacked him was the Nightwing whom he had never taken seriously. How is it possible? Tom made an unbelievable sound. Yes, this is me. Do you think you are the only one who is good at disguise? Nightwing made a sound that shocked everyone. Then she slowly raised her head and lifted her transformation magic. As she gradually restored her original appearance, from the original Nightwing to Raven, everyone was completely stunned. Especially Tim. He couldn't believe that the Nightwing he had known all along was actually a disguised Raven. Chapter 820, Raven vs. Tom, there will be a battle between us. What he couldn't understand the most was that the person who disguised himself was actually a woman. How is this possible? Raven. Where is Dick? Tim asked her in disbelief. Boom and Wei also had dull expressions on their faces. Especially Boom, she had said bad things about Raven in front of Nightwing before, and now she felt very embarrassed. Then Boom felt angry. Raven pretended to be Nightwing and talked to him. She disguised herself so well. Her purpose must be to laugh at him. This little three-palace demon is as insidious as little Voldemort. It turns out to be you, Raven. You have been pretending to be Nightwing. Boom snorted and said, I thought that little Voldemort Tom was insidious enough, but it turns out that you are the most insidious among your father's children. No wonder you will become the wife of Hades, the god of the underworld. The moment Raven revealed her true identity, she felt a little proud and wanted to see Boom's reaction. Now she was ridiculed by Boom, and her face was a little embarrassed. Very good, Jinx. Patrick, I wanted to help you get rid of the control, but it seems that it is not necessary now. I believe that you, the eldest daughter of Patrick's family, will definitely find a way. When Raven mentioned eldest daughter, she emphasized her tone. Seeing that Raven did not get rid of her control and was sarcastic, Boom became even more angry. With a snort, Boom turned his head away. I don't want it. Mark, who was still a little dizzy, asked Raven in confusion, when did you start pretending to be Nightwing? He never thought that Nightwing would be Raven pretending to be. From the first time you saw Nightwing in this city, Raven said, looking at Tim who was covering his wound. As for Dick's safety, don't worry, he is very good now, at least his safety is not a problem. After defeating Nightwing before, she imprisoned him. Tom on the other side was very dissatisfied when he saw Nightwing turned into Raven and defeated him by sneaking from behind and making him leave. He didn't expect that after planning for so long, he would fall into the trap of Raven, the girl he looked down upon. When he was in Hogwarts, Raven had been competing with him in the Serpentine. Now in this battle for the cloak, Raven still defeated him. Tom staggered to his feet and looked at Raven angrily. Very good, Raven, there will be a battle between us. Let's see who is the best wizard under Father and who can represent Padrick Farm and Father. This battle is in the name of Father. Before he finished speaking, Tom stood up and shook his wand lightly. A trackless heartbreaking bone-removing curse suddenly burst out, and the green light seemed to pierce Raven's heart directly from the void. Facing Tom's magic attack, Raven's cloak instantly hardened into a shield. When the spell hit, a sharp metal scraping sound broke out, and spider web patterns cracked on the surface of the shield, absorbing and transforming the energy of the killing curse in an instant. Then Raven threw a ball of chaotic energy with her backhand. Tom apparated to avoid it, and with a bang, the stone pillar was blown away by the energy ball. Then in the name of my father, Tom, I will defeat you and make you withdraw from this war completely. She changed from Nightwing's uniform to Raven's costume, and a black and mysterious aura enveloped her. Tim, who was standing aside, was shocked to see Raven, who had changed her aura and became more powerful. Raven, who had regained her true form, seemed to be even more powerful and mysterious. Is this the power of the Raven who has liberated her true form? Why does she look more powerful and mysterious than the Raven in her own world? How did their father Peter Padrick teach them? Tim was in shock. Tom Riddle, you are polite and gentle, but I can feel that I can sense the emotions and feelings of everyone around you. You are the most ambitious guy. You are the most dangerous to my father, Raven said to Tom without any hesitation. Tom snorted coldly, compared to my ambition, the three-palace demon in your body is the most dangerous. Before he finished speaking, a dazzling red light burst out from the tip of Tom's wand. He instantly swung his wand and cut a mark in the air. As he moved, the giant python emerged from the void, and the corrosive liquid splashed from its fangs rushed straight towards Raven. At the same time, Tom tore the space crack and released a flock of crows. These creatures grew in size under the blessing of his World Tree wand, and pounced on the ravens like black giant bats. Facing Tom's attack, Raven quickly retreated and chanted a spell. As with Metrian Zinthus, Raven just chanted the second syllable of the spell when several green lights suddenly attacked from different directions. Raven did not stop chanting the spell. She chanted the mental magic learned from Zatanna, and at the same time, she drew an arc with her right hand to direct the killing spell to the clock tower behind her. When the big clock was hit by the spell, it made a dying roar, startling the bats hiding nearby. After chanting the spell, Raven's eyes suddenly glowed with gold. Then, in the shocked eyes of everyone, she rushed to Tom with a force and pressed her bloody finger on his forehead. As with Metrian Zinthus, Raven poured the pure power of her soul into Tom's sea of consciousness. She saw countless scenes in the torrent of memories. She saw the bathroom of Hogwarts. Tom muttered to himself in his diary, I want death to be a slave, an ambition to be my father's helper. She saw Padrick Farm. Tom wrote about his future ambitions in his diary. She saw Tom growing up in the orphanage with calls of devil, fear, hostility, and disdain. Raven was slightly moved when she saw these memories. She let go of her hand and pulled out the torrent of memories. Tom, who was controlled by her, felt as if his mind was invaded by something, and waves of stabbing pain in his mind attacked him. Covering his forehead, Tom knelt on the ground with a thump. Raven looked at the other person lying on the ground, and her expression became extremely complicated. She wanted to apologize to him, but she felt that maybe Tom didn't care about her apology. Shaking her head, Raven said to him with a heavy heart, sorry, I won. She raised her head and looked at the people on the field with different expressions. As the battle for the cape progressed, more and more people left the field. Now only herself, Loki and Horus are still fighting, right? I don't know when my father will come back. The night got darker. The rain gradually subsided. In the basement of a chemical plant, Director Gordon woke up from the pain. Dizziness, tinnitus, numbness all over the body, and even unable to move his fingers. I have a concussion. In the dark environment, he couldn't see anything. So he stood up by holding the wall. A coldness rushed towards him all around. Covering his shoulders, shivering, he tried to analyze what happened. He remembered that he couldn't contact Azu before, so he left the police station and went to the Rosen Theater to see what happened. Unexpectedly, he was attacked from behind as soon as he got off the car. He lost consciousness immediately after his eyes went dark, and when he woke up, he found himself here. With his arms around his shoulders, Commissioner Gordon tried to analyze the subtle noises around him. They were low and small, and had an electronic sound, which should have come from the generator. After analyzing the type of sound, he took 2 steps and found that there were iron chains tied to his feet. The iron chains tied to his feet tied him tightly. Snap! A dazzling light shone down from the top of his head. Do you know which scene this is, Mr. Commissioner? Then a voice came from the shadows. Gordon looked in the direction of the sound and found that Mr. Freeze slowly walked out of the shadows. Mr. Freeze was wearing a special cryogenic armor, a transparent mask on his head, and holding a freezing gun. Mr. Freeze, who was walking slowly towards him, said to the stunned Gordon, "This is the scene where the bat fell from the sky to save your life, but that scene will not happen again this time, right, Mr. Commissioner?" He paused, raised the freezing gun, and had a creepy smile on his face. "Because we all know the fact, that is, Batman is dead, haha." Gordon smiled. "Stop scaring me, Mr. Freeze. If you wanted to kill me, you would have done it long ago." With the help of the light, Gordon soon knew where he was and why he was so cold. The environment he was in was a freezer. "Tell me, why did you bring me here?" Seeing Gordon's calmness in the face of danger, Mr. Freeze was somewhat impressed. "Mr. Director, you have a good eye," Mr. Freeze said slowly. "I plan to put a perfect end to the action on the night of graduation." Gordon sat down cross-legged, panting slightly, resisting the invasion of the cold air, and asked him, "You mean, the night you are going to kill a hall of college students?" Mr. Freeze walked to the operating table and began to operate the buttons on it, and said to Gordon, "I thought you knew that I never planned to kill them. I just want to teach them a lesson. My goal is to teach the citizens of Gotham City how to adapt to this tragedy." Operating the buttons on the panel, he continued to say to Gordon, "Just like I learned to adapt to my tragic life, and you, Mr. Director, you have to learn how to adapt to your tragedy." Listening to Mr. Freeze's words, Gordon felt that his mind was gradually becoming a little fuzzy. He wanted to clench his hands, but found that he couldn't do it at all. Muscle failure is the first sign of lower body temperature. At this time, he was a little doubtful. How long had he been missing? "No, this is not a good sign," he whispered in a voice that he could hear. "Because it means his body will give in to the cold." Hugging himself tightly, he said to Mr. Freeze with chattering teeth, "What tragedy are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the death of the Bat. The protector of Gotham City has abandoned you." Chapter 821 Peter appears. The light of the bat lamp. Mr. Freeze turned around and said to Gordon, whose consciousness was gradually falling into coma, "He abandoned this city, and you will fall into the grief of losing everything, but don't be afraid, sir, you won't bear this pain alone." He opened his arms and said to Gordon in a crazy voice, "When I finish these steps, the whole Gotham City will mourn everything you have lost like you." Listening to Mr. Freeze's words, Gordon raised his head with all his strength and looked at the equipment controlled by the other party. He remembered that Mr. Freeze had attacked a scientific research unit before. "I think you wanted to steal this equipment." Although Gordon didn't know how this equipment worked, science was Mr. Freeze's forte, and he must know how to make this equipment work. He held onto his body, and said to Mr. Freeze, "You can't escape, Victor." Mr. Freeze's real name is Victor Freeze. Mr. Freeze, with red eyes, raised his freezing gun. "That's not necessarily true. I always have a way to escape." "You disappoint me so much, Mr. Director. Think about the people you have lost in your life." He looked directly at Gordon. "Your adopted daughter is disabled, and your beloved second wife is dead. Now, your most powerful ally can no longer help you. I thought you were the one who understood the importance of putting sadness aside." Gordon staggered and tried to stand up, but soon fell to the ground. Kneeling on the ground, he panted to Mr. Freeze, "Don't fool yourself, Mr. Freeze, all you want is an excuse to watch others suffer." Looking at Gordon who was still holding on, Mr. Freeze sneered. "Watch your tone, Gordon. Don't make it sound like I really need an excuse or that I'm asking for your approval. Mr. Freeze leaned over and looked at Gordon, whose glasses were fogged up, eyebrows were frozen, and he was shivering from the cold. Who else do you think can stop me? You? Or your precious policeman? Gordon raised his head with an effort. Batman will stop you. Although he said this, Gordon knew that Mr. Freeze was right. Whether he was voluntary or not, he had been waiting and looking forward to Batman's arrival. But that was the end. Batman is dead, Commissioner Gordon. Mr. Freeze looked at the screen. A countdown was showing on the screen starting Freeze X plan. 3-2. Now Gotham will follow him. Seeing Mr. Freeze turn his gaze to the screen, Gordon immediately grabbed the chain at hand, used all his strength, stood up suddenly and rushed towards him. No, as long as I'm here, Gotham won't die. He put the chain around Mr. Freeze's neck and pulled it back hard. Ugh, caught off guard, Mr. Freeze screamed and was pulled back. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Gordon grabbed a part of the machine. As he pulled off a part, the countdown on the screen quickly stopped. After pulling off the key part, he quickly ran out. Mr. Freeze stood up from the ground in a rage, looked at the words Freeze X project has been terminated on the screen, and shouted angrily at Gordon's back, "You can't escape, Gordon." Gordon, who was running forward, naturally heard what Mr. Freeze said. He knew that the other party was right, and he couldn't beat Mr. Freeze at all. All he could do was to risk his life and delay for a few seconds. This was the inevitable outcome. But it was a good deal. As soon as he ran into the laboratory, Mr. Freeze behind him chased him in. "I'm stronger and more agile than you, Gordon. You can't escape." He pulled the trigger of the freezing gun. Bang! The glass hit by the cold air fell to the ground with a clanging sound. Gordon, who was hiding behind the equipment, held his breath nervously. "I see you." The next second, the freezing man shot towards Gordon's direction. Bang! The equipment he used as a cover was hit hard. Gordon also staggered forward to hide. With a lot of ice crystals on his back and head, he avoided the impact of the equipment and stood opposite the freezing man, but did not continue to run away. "What? Have you given up?" The freezing man pointed the gun at Gordon and asked him. "No, you said you are stronger and more agile than me. Maybe you are right, but you forgot one thing. That is, I have something that you don't have." "Oh?" The freezing man became interested. "Then let me see it." Gordon took a deep breath, endured the pain in his body, and took out a box of matches from his pocket. "That's it, a box of matches. Guess who among us just broke the gas main?" Mr. Freeze, who had a confident smile on his face, froze when he heard Gordon say to open the gas main. No, in his eyes, bloodshot. Snap! Gordon struck a match. As a little light rose, the air seemed to be ignited. Boom! The explosion spread instantly, and the powerful force directly blasted Mr. Freeze, who was unable to react in time. Gordon closed his eyes, waiting for the flames and explosion to devour him. But the next second, a figure suddenly appeared in the fire. The flames caused by the gas explosion hit the other person's body and disappeared instantly. Before the flames hit his body, Gordon felt someone standing in front of him. He opened his eyes in astonishment and saw a broad figure standing in front of him. He saw Batman, who was bathed in the dark night and wearing bat armor, standing in front of him. Batman! Gordon could never imagine that the dead Batman would come to save him. Just like thousands of times before, Batman would appear at the critical moment of this crisis. This time was the same as thousands of times before. No, impossible. Gordon tried to wake himself up. Impossible, Batman is dead. He fell to trance in his consciousness, and his body could not support himself and fell backwards. As his body fell down, he saw Batman reaching out his hand to him. The figure of Batman gradually became clear. The person in front of him was not wearing Batman's uniform, and he immediately realized that it was just his illusion. The real person who came to save him was just wearing a black windbreaker, but he exuded a strong aura that he could not ignore. Snap! Peter grabbed the arm of the fallen Gordon. A few minutes later, on the rooftop of the chemical plant building, Peter, Sherry, and Leela were talking to Gordon, who had woken up. After Sherry's many trials and errors, and with Peter and Raven's souls connected, they had some kind of connection, which could provide clues for Sherry's crossing. An hour ago, Peter and his family finally came to this world. After a preliminary exploration of this world, Peter immediately brought Sherry, Lyra, Kara, as well as Harry and Hermione to Gotham. The news that Gotham Batman was dead was known to the whole world. He strongly suspected that Gwen was using the battle for the cape to cause trouble, So he set Gotham as his first destination for investigation. He had just arrived in Gotham, and he took Siri and Lyra to investigate in the city, and happened to see Gordon being attacked by Mr. Freeze. So he followed him and rescued Gordon at the critical moment. "I'm Peter Patrick." Peter stretched out his hand to Gordon. Peter Patrick. Gordon was stunned when he heard the name. He had heard Azu mention his father before, but he didn't expect to see him here. "Do you know me, Mr. Gordon?" "No. But I've heard of you." Gordon looked at Peter in shock. According to Azu, his father had saved the world countless times and was a powerful superhero in the multiverse. Now Peter was standing in front of him, which made him fall into a state of disbelief. "Well, it seems that you should know my sons, or daughters." Peter did not continue to speak, but pointed to the bat lamp placed next to him. "Why is there a bat lamp here? I once placed many spare bat lamps in this city." He turned on the bat lamp with a complicated expression, and a huge bat projection suddenly appeared in the sky after the rain. "Although Batman is dead now, it is a bit dangerous to turn it on now," he said to Peter, Sherry, and Leela, "but I received a report before that Batman's traces were found in Burnley Town. It seems to be related to a gang called Gotham Butcher. Those gang members were arrested by Batman. They said that it was Batman who did it at that time. Maybe there is another Batman here, a different Batman, at the same time." After defeating Jason and Tom, Raven, standing at the highest point of the city, saw a giant bat projection in the sky in the distance. Taking a deep breath, Raven took off Nightwing's mask. Then the mask in her hand began to change, and finally turned into Batman's mask. Looking at the car driven by the robbers who were avoiding the police car on the street, Raven put on the bat mask and jumped down from the tall building. Nay Island. After robbing a lady's wallet, two thieves turned around and fled. But just as they fled to the alley, a man wearing a mask and bathed in black shadows turned his back to the two of them and made a hoarse voice that frightened them. "Gentlemen, this place is forbidden to pass." In the distance behind him, a huge bat projection appeared in the dim sky. Peter Patrick, seeing the figure of the other party wearing a mask, the two thieves trembled. In a nursing home. The black mask in the room took off his black mask and revealed his true face inside, Loki. Loki looked up at the projection of the bat in the sky, and a complicated expression appeared on his face. Chapter 822 Swallow and Catwoman, a topic about darkness and hope. "Are you okay, Master?" On the way back, Leela saw that Peter had been silent all the time, and asked him with some concern. He thought that the Master had encountered some trouble, or had something on his mind. Siri, who was following Peter, also had a worried look on her face. With a silver sword on her back, she looked at the somewhat chaotic Gotham under the night sky, and asked Peter, "Sir, have you been here before?" "No, this is my first time in this city." Peter shook his head and said to Siri and Leela, "But I have experienced many similar dark worlds." Swallow. Leela, who was next to her, was stunned when she heard Peter call Siri Swallow. "Is Siri also called Swallow?" "This is my nickname. The elves used to call me Swallow," Siri explained to the puzzled Leela. "You can also call me Swallow." "Of course, Siri or Leela are fine." Then she said to Peter, "Yes, this place is indeed full of corruption." Siri listened to Peter's words, thinking of the battle between Gordon and Mr. Freeze just now, and said to Peter, "But this city still has people like Officer Gordon who are always fighting against evil. They are the law of Gotham. I think this shows that this city has not completely lost hope, right?" At this point, Siri smiled at Peter. "Although there is no perfect fairy tale in the world of demon hunters, I believe that here, there may be a perfect ending," Siri said, holding Peter's hand with some emotion. "I also experienced a dark period in my life, sir. After leaving you, I was hunted by a bounty hunter named Leo Bonar. It was a long and bloody battle, and I had to face my hatred and fear in the end, not only for my own survival, but also for the poor Imperial soldier Cahill, and my dear fellow Sintra people, for those who came for me and died for me. This gave me courage. In the end, I defeated him. Maybe there are many people in this city who are experiencing the same troubles as I did. I believe they will win in the end." Peter didn't expect Siri to have such a complicated experience recently. No wonder he couldn't contact her before. It is estimated that this agile swallow has been fighting with a bounty hunter she mentioned. But when I think about it, every moment of this princess's life experience is wonderful, which should be commonplace for her. Reaching out and touching Siri's silver hair, Peter didn't speak, but looked up at the bat projection not far above his head. After a while, he said to the two women, "Let's go back first. We have to find Raven and the others first." Black Mask has been quite active in Gotham recently. Maybe we can find some clues on this. The next day, early in the morning, the Riddler was invited to a house outside Gotham. Sitting on a chair, looking at Two-Face sitting opposite him, the Riddler asked him with a smile on his face, "You are really embarrassed, Two-Face?" "Let me guess, what did you call me for?" The Two-Face sitting opposite him said to him with a gloomy face. "We have dealt with each other a lot, Edward. You should remember that I don't have time to play guessing games with you. While we are talking, Black Mask is robbing the city's territory." Two-Face played with a coin in his hand and said to him, "I want you to find him." This time he secretly returned to Gotham. Although he was not discovered by the guards, he now only has a few men and doesn't even have a piece of territory. According to multiple investigations, he has learned that it is very likely that Black Mask is behind it. "I am the king of crime in this city. This city should belong to me. I should rule the underground world of Gotham City, not the Penguin, and certainly not the Black Mask." Listening to Two-Face's conceited words, the Riddler leaned forward slightly. "Generally speaking, I will not accept commissions from customers who once wanted to kill me." Two-Face put down the coin in his hand and said to the Riddler, "But I saved you later, so now no matter what, we are even. But I think I know what your problem is now. You seem to think that I am hiring you. You are wrong. I am not hiring you, nor do I want to ask you for help." Two-Face stood up and turned to leave. Seeing Two-Face leave like this, the Riddler stopped him. "You left like this. Don't you want to know who is hiding behind that mask?" "No, I don't want to." Two-Face turned around. "The Black Mask is just one of the countless puzzles in Gotham, or one more is nothing." He is not interested in who is behind the Black Mask now. All he wants is to kill the other party. It doesn't matter who is behind it. "Well, your proposal still arouses my interest. I agree to your employment." The Riddler stood up and stretched out his hand to Two-Face. Seeing that the other party accepted the commission, Two-Face nodded with satisfaction. "Very good, celebrate our cooperation again." At night, after finishing the conversation with the Riddler, Two-Face left the manor in a car and headed for the center of Gotham City. When the car was driving on a remote road, suddenly, a black shadow suddenly rushed down. With a bang, Catwoman jumped onto the front hood of the car. "Hi, Harvey," Catwoman greeted the stunned Two-Face while shattering the glass with one claw. As the glass shattered, the frightened driver slammed on the brakes. The car tires made a sharp squeaking sound and slid forward along the ground. The agile Catwoman grabbed the driver's collar and threw him out of the car. "Ah!" The driver screamed and rolled on the side of the road. The car hit the fire hydrant on the side of the road with a dull bang. Bang! Catwoman rolled over and got off the hood of the car, and said to the stunned Two-Face, "Calm down, Harvey, I don't want to beat you up now, go to hell." Two-Face gritted his teeth and raised his pistol, and suddenly pulled the trigger at Catwoman. Catwoman dodged the bullet while complaining in her heart that sooner or later she would steal Two-Face's coins just to see him go crazy. After using bullets to force Catwoman back, Harvey immediately moved to the driver's seat, started the car, and rushed forward. Crack! A thunder sounded, and then a light rain fell from the sky. Catwoman stood up and looked at the car driven by Two-Face that was gradually going away. She raised her head and let the rain fall on her face. She didn't know why she came here and thought about catching this guy. You know, even if she caught this guy, there would be Three-Face and Four-Face to replace him. She just felt too tired. And all this was meaningless. Swoosh! Although she thought it was meaningless, Catwoman still fired the hook gun in her hand and chased Two-Face's car. At the same time, Two-Face breathed a sigh of relief after seeing that he had gotten rid of Catwoman. This crazy woman, he couldn't help but curse inwardly. Just when Two-Face thought he had gotten rid of Catwoman's pursuit, another black shadow followed. The steam rising from the asphalt road blurred the tire tracks. Death Shooter, who was watching Two-Face's car, drove a modified Chevrolet SS and drew smoke on the curve, quickly catching up with the other party. The onboard radar showed that the target was turning into 6th Avenue, and at the same time, the employer Black Mask's slow command came from the radio, "Don't let him get away, understood?" Soon Two-Face also found Death Shooter following behind. The next moment, the trunk of the car suddenly popped open, and the pistol spewed flames at him. Death Shooter turned the steering wheel violently, and the armor-piercing bullets chiseled honeycomb-shaped bullet holes on the hood. He kicked open the deformed door and jumped onto the roof. His tactical eyepiece locked onto the swaying figure of Two-Face in the car. Harvey Dent was loading bullets into his revolver. Deadshot pulled out the pistol from his thigh strap and pulled the trigger. With a bang, the recoil made his shoulder blade numb. Black Mask greets you, Mr. Harvey. As he spoke, Deadshot pulled the trigger. When the bullet pierced the right rear wheel of the car, the whole car was thrown sideways like a whipped bowl, breaking the fire hydrant and sliding sideways towards the dock guardrail. At the moment when the water column rushed up to the sky, Deadshot caught a glimpse of a black shadow passing through the sky. Catwoman's whip swept away the fire hydrant parts that rushed over and landed in front of him. Tell your master that as long as I am here, Two-Face belongs to me. Catwoman told him that she would take Two-Face away. He's not something that doesn't belong to you, young lady. Death Shooter threw out a magnetic hook and climbed up the crane arm. The side of the submachine gun on his wrist had already covered Catwoman's back. Bang! As he pulled the trigger, the bullet shot out violently. But Selina seemed to have eyes behind her head and suddenly turned over to avoid the bullet. The alloy claws scraped sparks on the steel beam. Catwoman moved between the containers, but due to Death Shooter's continuous shooting, she was slightly stagnant. Death Shooter seized the opportunity to shoot the net gun, but the special fiber net was whipped into two pieces in midair. The broken net rope entangled the crane cable, and the sparks ignited the leaking diesel. You should practice your shooting skills, Catwoman's voice mixed with the explosion, and then she jumped onto the tower crane beam with the help of the airwave. As soon as Death Shooter raised the modified gun, he felt a chill on his neck. The cat claw knife scraped his Adam's apple and nailed into the iron plate behind him. Then Catwoman quickly approached. Facing Catwoman's melee attack, Death Shooter suddenly twisted his body, and the bayonet popped out from his sleeve and stabbed Catwoman's ribs. Catwoman's movements were faster, and she hit the opponent's head with a punch, knocking him to the ground heavily. Why? Death Shooter couldn't understand why Catwoman would stop him. Panting heavily, looking at Death Shooter lying on the ground, Catwoman said coldly, because this is what he wants. What? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 823 Horus vs. Loki, Kneel Down. Because this is what he wants, even though he's gone, Catwoman stood in front of the fallen Deadshot and said to him, and I will die to please a dead man, so I will continue to fight and continue to be who he wants me to be. Catwoman raised her eyes with a serious expression and continued, although he has, but the next second Catwoman's expression froze, and she looked at the Black Mask in front of her in shock. This is impossible. Catwoman was stunned in place. Impossible, you are already dead. I killed you with my own hands. Boom. Two-Face's car roared and exploded, and the flames spread quickly. In the rain, in the flames and the sound of beeping and popping, Black Mask stood in front and looked at her expressionlessly. After the two sides stared at each other for a moment, Black Mask turned and left. Catwoman saw that the other party was about to leave, and immediately chased after him. She wanted to know why Black Mask died and resurrected. Could it be that the Black Mask in front of her was resurrected from the dead? Catwoman, who was chasing after him, swung out the whip in her hand and tried to roll away the other party's gun barrel. But the next second she felt a strange tremor coming from the tip of the whip. The man wearing the ebony mask suddenly let go of the gun and grabbed the whip with his backhand. Caught off guard, Black Cat's tactical boots left 2 watermarks on the slippery ground. Catwoman took advantage of the situation and jumped into the air. Her legs twisted around the opponent's neck, but her pupils shrank slightly when she touched Black Mask's neck. Even though she was twisting her neck, Black Mask's expression did not seem to change at all, and the opponent's body strength was amazing. Black Cat immediately turned in the air to relieve the force, and her nails scratched the edge of the opponent's mask, bringing up a string of sparks. The man's low laugh was processed by a voice changer, hoarse like rusty gears rubbing. The next moment, he suddenly ducked and rushed forward, elbowing Selina's ribs, and the starting position of the fighting technique made Catwoman's hair on the back of her neck stand up. The rain poured down, and Black Mask took the opportunity to pull out the pistol on the side of his leg. The moment the blue gun flame illuminated the outline of Selina's cat ears, bullets formed a barrage and attacked her. Catwoman kicked the wall and flipped backwards, revealing her strong and slender legs when the hem of her leather jacket was blown off. Gritting her teeth, she quickly climbed up the wall. The moment she climbed to the rooftop of the building, Black Mask was already waiting for her on the rooftop. Plop! Catwoman kicked out, and she was kicked down from the wall heavily without reacting in time, falling on the trash can. Although the garbage cushioned most of the force of the fall. But she still fell hard. With blood flowing from the corners of her mouth, she panted slightly and looked up at Black Mask on the rooftop. The rain fell and dripped on her face, making her feel cold. In her sight, she gradually saw Black Mask and Poison Ivy, and Killer Croc walk towards her. Her vision gradually became blurred, and her consciousness began to become unclear. Is this the end of me? Ending her meaningless life? Black Mask slowly walked to Catwoman, who fell in the trash can and wanted to say something. But before he could say it, he heard a voice from behind. Stay away from her. Hearing the slightly hoarse voice, Black Mask turned around and looked at Horace, who suddenly appeared behind him. At this time, Horace was wearing a mask obtained from the underground black market in Zon, and the whole person exuded a strange and mysterious aura. I know it's you, Loki. Horace, disguised as Peter, called out the real name of Black Mask at once. Hearing Horace call Black Mask Loki, Catwoman immediately sobered up a little. Loki, what does this mean? Killer Croc and Poison Ivy also looked surprised when they heard the Black Mask beside them calling Loki. What does it mean? Isn't Black Mask from the Sinus family? Should his last name be Sinus? Loki, who was called by Horace, continued to disguise himself as Black Mask. Kill him, Loki, disguised as Black Mask, asked Poison Ivy and Killer Croc to kill Horace. He's the fake Peter Padrick that has recently appeared in Gotham City. Kill him. Although they had some doubts, Killer Croc and Poison Ivy finally rushed forward. The corrupted swamp gurgled under Horace's feet, and the rotten tree roots suddenly rose up. 3 wrist-thick vines wrapped around the seams of his uniform, and the poisonous spikes scraped sparks on the ceramic steel surface. Peter Padrick? Are you the new superhero who wants to replace Batman? Poison Ivy's voice slowly came to Horace. As she spoke, the vegetation was wriggling, and the thorny vines were woven into a landscape that covered the sky. Facing Poison Ivy's attack, Horace drew out his power sword and instantly cut off the main vine, and the fishy juice splashed on the farm badge on his chest. But more vines drilled into the lining from the gap in the armor and pierced the skin of his left arm. The muscle bundles expanded abnormally under the stimulation of the toxins, stretching his skin into terrifying cracks. Bang! The next moment, the mud suddenly exploded, and the screams of scales scraping against ceramic steel pierced through the rain curtain. Killer Croc's fangs bit the cape on Horace's back. Horace grabbed the dorsal fin of the reptilian mutant killer with his backhand, and the power armor servo burst into sparks in the struggle between muscle and machinery. A loud bang sounded. Horace's roar shook off the water in the treetops. He twisted his waist and swung the crocodile man through the air and smashed him into a poisonous thorn bush. When the thorns pierced through the scales, the ground rang with the trembling of countless vines tightening. Poison Ivy looked at Horace's good fighting ability, and her hands turned into branches full of man-eating plants. Spores sprayed from the core of the flower, and poisonous gas quickly spread to him. Facing Poison Ivy's gas attack, Horace raised his grenade launcher and smashed the plant with a bang. Then he moved in front of Poison Ivy like lightning and grabbed her neck. Poison Ivy, with a look of disbelief in her pupils, was thrown heavily to the ground. After quickly dealing with Poison Ivy and Killer Croc, Horace faced off against Loki's Black Mask. Catwoman, who was covering her shoulders, slowly got down from the trash can, leaned against the wall and gasped, looking at the two people looking at each other. I know it's you, brother. There is no one else who can disguise as Black Mask and cause so many things except you. Horace said something that stunned Catwoman. Horace. I didn't expect you to be so bold that you dared to use your father's name. Black Mask slowly took off his mask in front of Catwoman, Poison Ivy and Killer Croc, who fell to the ground with serious injuries. Seeing Loki's unfamiliar face behind the Black Mask, everyone was stunned. Especially Poison Ivy. She didn't expect that the one who had been deceiving her all this time was not a Black Mask, but the guy disguised as him. I wonder what my father would think if he knew that you used his name and identity to become a superhero in Gotham. After taking off the mask, Loki put his hands behind his back and said to Horace, in this battle for the cape, we all fought in our own way. I didn't expect that it would be you who stood in front of me in the end. I believe that if we turn against each other in the future, among my father's children, the one who will stand in front of me in the end will still be you. Loki threw the Black Masks to the ground, but you should understand, Horace, you became the hero of this city in your father's name, and you did not inherit Batman's cape. Jason Todd uses extreme violence to fight crime, and even forges the I Am Batman logo. When violence becomes the main means of fighting violence, the boundary between heroes and villains begins to blur. His violence is essentially a negation of Batman's no-killing principle, simplifying justice into result-oriented revenge. He said slowly to Horace, "The cloak is not only a fighting tool, but also the collective psychological pillar of the citizens of Gotham." When Jason Todd stole the Bat logo to carry out lynching, the symbol of justice was alienated into a tool of fear rule. When the symbol of Batman was alienated, and you tried to establish a symbol in the city, a symbol of justice, but you did not fully understand the meaning of this symbol, because you were just acting completely in accordance with your father's teachings. You just thought that a hero should incarnate as a masked man in the night, but you didn't know why. Loki sneered, "Your justice alone will do little to help this city, but I can unify the underworld of Gotham and completely eradicate the sins of this city." The boundary of justice lies not in who owns the cloak, but in whether the holder can let the symbol transcend personal will and become an eternal torch that illuminates the darkness. Loki's tone was unquestionable. What this city needs is not the justice of one person, but order. A new order. As the son of Peter Padrick, the master of Asgard, the heir of Padrick Farm, one of the greatest wizards of Hogwarts, and my father's proudest son, I can inherit everything from him, and I also have strength that exceeds all of you. Boom. Before he finished speaking, Loki instantly released a ray of ice, instantly knocking Horace, who was unable to react, away. Loki, holding the freezing gun in his hand, used the weapon of the previous Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze had previously made a freezing weapon for Loki. As a frost giant, he was even more powerful when using this weapon. Horace staggered and tried to stand up, but he felt that his whole body was frozen, and it was difficult to move a step. At the same time, Killer Croc and Poison Ivy also walked towards him and surrounded him. Deadshot, Killer Frost, and many other Gotham villains also arrived one after another. The group surrounded Horace. "Do you think I am not prepared at all, Horace?" Loki said to him. "I have watched every move of you, Raven and Tom. In this war, I have already stood at the highest point, and I will not fail. After defeating you, I will seize the last cloak and prove who is the last son." A trace of ambition flashed in Loki's eyes. "Raven, I will prove who is the one who can inherit my father's cloak. Now, Horace, kneel down." Chapter 824, The Emperor Father is gone. How can we play now? On the other side, there was a high platform above the dock. Peter stood on the high platform, looking down at everything. Seeing that Loki, the bastard, made Horace kneel down, Peter frowned and couldn't help but rush up to take down this rebellious son. But in the end, he held back. He wanted to see what this rebellious son wanted to do. Not only did he recruit all the supervillains in Gotham, but he also wanted to rebuild some order. Could it be that this rebellious son wanted to inherit his cape and spirit? Which was this cape spirit? Very good. After everything is over, I have to deal with this naughty kid. Let him explain what order is. Peter, with a somewhat ugly face, was already thinking about how to deal with Loki in the end. Although he was very unhappy, he had no intention of taking action now. At first, he hurried here because he was worried about the safety of these children and worried that they would have an accident. But now that he gradually understood that there was a battle for the cape going on here, and Azu and the others had completely joined in, Peter was not too worried. His curiosity was now aroused. Without Clark's participation, who will be the final winner? According to what Loki said just now, it seems that only Loki and Raven are left in the end. Will the winner of the final cape battle be decided between these two people? Under the cover of the night, Peter stroked his beard and fell into deep thought. Looking at Horace and Catwoman at the dock, he raised his head and exhaled slowly. Although it is not easy to break the rules and rescue Horace, there is a Catwoman who knows a lot of things here, so he can ask her what happened. A black cloak appeared behind him, and Batman's uniform appeared and covered Peter's whole body. "Now, Horace, kneel down," as Loki said. Snap. Snap. Snap, the sound rang out, and the lights of all the blocks near the dock went out in an instant. The night and the rain fell into darkness, and the scene immediately fell into brief chaos. Catwoman, who was originally leaning against the wall, was enduring the pain, shocked by the true identity behind the black mask, which was Loki, whom he did not know, and the other party's purpose seemed to be to prove himself to his father in this battle for the cape. Who is their father? Peter Padrick. Just as she was lost in her wild thoughts, the lights suddenly went out in an instant. Then she felt a black shadow flying towards her. Even in the dark night, Catwoman could vaguely sense that it was the figure of Batman. Hearing the sound of the cape opening in the dark and seeing the figure of Batman, Catwoman's eyes were instantly filled with tears. Bang! Batman flew over and hugged her and flew towards the sky. The rainy night filled with pitch black instantly submerged the figures of the two. When Loki reacted, Catwoman had disappeared. Looking at the direction where Catwoman disappeared, Loki frowned. He seemed to have felt a familiar breath just now. No, impossible, it can't be my father, he can't be here. Loki forced himself to suppress his inner uneasiness. On the other side, Horus, who was imprisoned by Loki's magic, looked at the direction where Peter disappeared with Catwoman, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. If the Emperor Dad ended up, Loki would definitely lose. That person, both in figure and breath, was similar to the Emperor Dad. But soon his face wrinkled into a ball. If the other party was really the Emperor Dad, why did he rescue Catwoman and not take himself out? Was the Emperor Dad angry because he used his name without permission? Horus immediately fell into anxiety. In the pattering drizzle, Peter hugged Catwoman curled up in his arms and landed on the rooftop where he met Gordon last night. Catwoman left Peter's arms in a daze, and asked Peter with unbelievable eyes, "You are Batman," but soon she lowered her head sadly. "No, you can't be him, he's dead." Peter looked at Catwoman who was in grief, slowly took off the mask on his face, revealing a face with clear edges and corners and outstanding temperament. "You're right, I'm not Batman," Peter said to Catwoman. "I'm Peter Padrick." Peter Padrick? The real Padrick? Catwoman was stunned when she heard the name. She didn't expect to meet the masked superhero who once told her that his name was Peter Padrick. Now, the real Peter Padrick appeared in front of her. "Yes, I should be the real one. The Peter Padrick you know should be my youngest son." Horus pretending to be him. Peter was speechless about Horus's unconventional behavior. He thought that only Star-Lord and Boom Boom could do such a thing, but he didn't expect that it was Horus, a guy with thick eyebrows and big eyes, who pretended to be himself. "It seems that I have to go back and have a good talk with him. Could it be that you, kid, want to use your father's name when doing things in the galaxy in the future? This kind of behavior of killing first and reporting later must be severely criticized." Catwoman didn't know that Peter was criticizing Horus. Looking at Peter's face, she asked him in surprise, "Are they really your sons?" "They should be." Peter stretched out his hand to her, but Catwoman shrank back in fear. "Don't worry, you are injured, I need to treat you, otherwise you won't have such a relaxing night." Catwoman let down her guard when she heard Peter was going to treat her own injuries. "Can you treat injuries?" "Of course, but not here, let's change places." Peter asked Catwoman to change places with him. A few minutes later, the Gothic arch flickered in the lighting, and the sound of raindrops hitting the stained glass covered Catwoman's heavy breathing. Catwoman lay on her side on the bench, the crack on the left rib of the leather battlesuit oozing dark red, and the curve of her curled spine was like a taut scimitar. "Don't touch that." Peter held down her hand that was trying to tear off the sticky fabric. When the black gloves cut open the battlesuit, Peter's fingertips always kept a distance of 2 millimeters from her skin. The moment the wound was exposed, both of them held their breath at the same time. A 3-inch long glass fragment was inserted diagonally between her ribs, and blood was dripping along her blood-white skin. Catwoman, who was a little embarrassed, tried to hypnotize herself. "I'm thinking of him as a doctor." "Don't worry." Peter used the rune to heal her wound. He pressed the upper edge of her ilium with 3 fingers of his left hand, and released a stream of silver celestial energy with his right hand, cutting into the wound at a 45-degree angle, which could avoid the main nerve plexus. When the glass shards separated from the flesh and blood, he felt Catwoman's muscle bundles vibrate like strings. Ugh! Catwoman, who felt a burst of pain, suddenly arched her back, bit her leather wristband with her canine teeth. And her muffled groan was swallowed by thunder. 5 scratches appeared on the right shoulder of Peter's armor, but the fibers soon repaired themselves. After extracting the glass fragments, Peter switched hands and used the rune to heal the other person's wound, while his other hand always fixed her pelvic position. This posture made the shadows of the two overlap on the wall in the shape of a double-headed eagle. Feeling the cool and comfortable feeling on her skin, Catwoman looked at Peter with curiosity and gratitude. She didn't understand, was this magic or some superpower? "Can you tell me, Selina, why Batman died?" Peter asked as he treated her. "It's complicated." Catwoman didn't notice that Peter knew her name was Selina, and sighed faintly. She told Peter the story that happened before. Darkseid attacked the Earth. and the whole world was in danger. In order to deal with Darkseid, Batman violated his oath not to use a gun. He shot Darkseid with a bullet that killed Orion and was poisonous to the New Gods, but he was also killed by Darkseid's Omega effect after being hit. Chapter 825, The Final Decisive Battle. All the Gotham villains come to your door. Batman won't die so easily. Now that I haven't seen his body, I don't think he will leave so easily. Peter took back the right hand that was healing Catwoman and said to her, maybe he will come back someday, maybe. Catwoman let out a sigh of frustration. Since he's gone, I feel that everything I've done is meaningless. I don't even know why I did this. I don't know why I intercepted Two-Face's car just now, just when I fell into the trash can just now. I even thought I was free, Catwoman said and covered her exposed skin. But you saved me, Mr. Patrick. I even thought it was an illusion at first. Anyway, I have to thank you, Catwoman sincerely thanked Peter. You're welcome. You just said that you killed Black Mask. Is that true? Peter was quite interested in how Catwoman killed Black Mask. As far as he knew, Catwoman, like Batman, also had a principle of not killing. It was a very complicated past. Catwoman stood up and looked at the sound of rain outside. During that time, I was often faced with mental disorders and fickleness, and I was forced to decide whether to kill a supervillain, the Black Mask, because Black Mask threatened the most important people in my life while trying to improve himself, from Grand Slam Bradley to Holly. The villain also tortured my sister Maggie before, causing her to suffer from catatonia, and she murdered Maggie's husband, which aroused my anger. Later, Black Mask learned of my identity through my former allies and my childhood friend Sylvia, which made me even more angry. A trace of sadness flashed in Catwoman's eyes. I don't know what I was thinking at the time. Maybe I was considering whether it was right or wrong to adhere to the strict principle of not killing. Just when I was thinking about it, I shot him in the head. This was the whole process. This was the first time in my life that he has been bothering me and making me wonder whether I am a villain, a good person or a hypocritical thug. Peter nodded after listening to Catwoman's somewhat painful description. After a while, he said to Catwoman, Foucault pointed out in Discipline and Punish that torture is a dramatic display of power. Black Mask uses harming your loved ones to build a pyramid of fear, but when you choose not to take his life, you actually complete a more profound subversion. You pull him back from the altar of the abuser to the position of mortal who can be judged. We are all mortals, and everyone has the right to judge themselves and others, Peter said to her, and your purpose is just to prevent him from hurting more people. So, I don't think this violates your principles, just like you said that Batman chose to shoot Darkseid in order to prevent him from hurting more humans. I don't think that Bruce Wayne is no longer Batman if he violates the principle of shooting, and the same goes for you, Selina. Catwoman was stunned when she heard Peter's words. Peter's words gave her a sense of déjà vu. It seemed that Bruce had said something similar to her before. A warm current flowed through her heart, and she looked at Peter. Why do you know my name is Selina? Because there is also a kitten in my world, named Selina. Peter stood up and said to her, you must have kept in touch with Barbara, the oracle of this world, so can you tell me what happened in Gotham recently? Especially about the Black Mask and Horace. Peter asked her about the recent events in Gotham regarding the battle for the cloak. He wanted to see what these naughty kids had done in the city. Of course, Batcave. Alfred stared at the two Nightwings in amazement. How come two Nightwings suddenly appeared when he was not paying attention? Sorry, Dick, I shouldn't have imprisoned you and pretended that you were moving around in the city. Raven released the Nightwing she had imprisoned and apologized sincerely. Nightwing, is this a matter that can be solved by an apology? He glanced at Alfred, who was a little confused next to him, and wanted to say, Butler, why didn't you see that he was fake? Although he wanted to say so, he finally swallowed the words in his mouth. Who knows if this Raven in another world will be so angry that he will not only lock himself up, but also imprison Alfred. That would be terrible. So, did Jason fall into the sea in the end? After a long silence, Dick asked Raven about Jason. Although he did not experience this scene in person, he could feel Jason's mood at that time. Yes, he chose to let go, Raven said while taking off the mask, revealing the delicate, beautiful and heroic face. That was his choice. Looking at Raven's face, which was completely different from the Raven in this world, Dick was stunned for a moment, and then said with mixed feelings, Jason was the second-generation Robin. He was tortured and killed by the Joker and resurrected. His psychological trauma has never healed. He tried to prove that he was more efficient than Batman through extreme means, but deep in his heart he still longed for Bruce's recognition. He has been unable to get rid of the contradiction of himself. He wants to surpass Batman, but he is in despair because he cannot get recognition. Raven agreed with Dick's words. Yes, I think he has always believed that Batman's principle of not killing is hypocritical, but in the process of fighting for the cape, he gradually found that he could not really replace Bruce. Choosing self-destruction is not a denial of the meaning of his own existence. My father once taught me that the saddest thing for a person is to reconcile with himself. Raven had just finished speaking when she suddenly heard a prompt from the communicator beside her ear. Gwen's voice came to her in the communicator, telling her that Horace had also withdrawn and was now staying in the lounge with other brothers and sisters as a spectator, watching the final battle between her and Loki. Hearing the other party say that Horace had withdrawn, Raven was stunned. Seeing Raven stunned, Dick frowned and asked her, "What's wrong?" "Nothing." Raven shook her head and said, "I just got some bad news. Our family is also fighting for my father's cape. Now almost everyone has withdrawn, and only one of my brothers is left." Dick listened to Raven's words and fell into deep thought. He only now understood why the other party pretended to be him. It turned out that it was to deal with the brothers and sisters who were fighting with her for the cape. It seems that this Raven from another world has the same problem of discord between brothers as himself. "Do you need help?" Tim and the Huntress came from outside and asked Raven. Although Tim was very dissatisfied with Raven pretending to be Nightwing, after all, she saved him. Now that Dick is fine, he can't pursue it. Tim came over and said to Raven, "We can work with you to deal with the brother you mentioned. Someone who can disguise himself as Black Mask is definitely not a good person." With the help of Oracle, Tim has already investigated the recent big moves of Black Mask in Gotham City. As far as he knows, Black Mask himself has been killed by Catwoman, and it is absolutely impossible for him to come back to life. At first he thought it was Jason who was pretending to be Black Mask, but now everything is over, and Jason has fallen into the sea. Excluding all the impossibilities, Black Mask should be Raven's brother. "No, it's not necessary." Raven shook her head, raised her head and said confidently, "I can kill him and prove who is the son who deserves his father's cloak. A guy like him will never succeed if he keeps hiding in the dark." Raven clenched her fists and said to the few people, "Although he is the god of tricks, this time, I will prove that any tricks are useless under absolute power." As soon as she finished speaking, a shrill alarm suddenly sounded in the Batcave. Helena asked in surprise, "What happened?" "Someone invaded Wayne Manor." Dick immediately walked to the monitor in the center of the Batcave, looked at the surveillance video on it, frowned and said to everyone, "And there are a lot of people, looking at Poison Ivy, Killer Croc and others on the surveillance video." He turned around and said to Tim and Helena, "It seems that these Gotham criminals now know that our base is here." "Yes, they know." Raven looked at the super criminals of Gotham on the monitor and narrowed her eyes. "I know who sent them. They've taken down the defense layer." Oracle's rapid breathing came from the communicator. "Their modified drill is breaking through Area B." Nightwing's short stick drew 2 arcs of electricity on the metal bridge, illuminating the surging tide below. "Drake." He flipped over and jumped between the falling steel beams. "I want you to guard the main console." "No problem." After handing the main console to Tim, Nightwing returned and rushed towards the enemy quickly. Passing through the corridor of the Batcave, Nightwing rushed to the outskirts of Wayne Manor and found that the enemy had entered the manor. He could hear the shouts of people around him. "The people we are looking for are hiding in this manor. Don't let them get away." Seeing Poison Ivy, Killer Croc, Frost Killer, Deadshot, Scarecrow and many other villains entering the manor, Nightwing hid himself in the shadows. Killer Croc, who acted alone, was attacked by Nightwing from behind. Croc reacted quickly, leaning back to avoid the first punch that was aimed at his face. The sparks from the stick hitting the limestone ground illuminated the veins on Croc's neck. Bang! Croc's sweep suddenly changed direction, and the heel of his boot brushed Nightwing's tumbling cape. Concrete fragments rained down on the glass display case next to him. Nightwing tapped the toes on the wall, and the arc of electricity from the stick accurately hit the nerve cluster behind Croc's right knee. Croc groaned and attacked him angrily. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.